Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Jujutsu Kaisen, the beginning of the Mangekyō Sharingan. Chapter 31. After the three of them solved the cursed spirit, they did not stop here and started back to the high school. Of course, the three of them would stop on the way to enjoy the beautiful scenery before going back. It took about 2 days for the three of them to return to the college. After reporting to Yaga Masamiki, the three of them went back to rest. So that's it, the eye power has begun to increase again. This is how the 10-fist sword is used. It seems that when encountering the cursed spirit in the future, I will use the 10-fist sword. This way I can open the eternal Mangekyō Sharingan right away. Ming secretly thought in his heart. In a small dark room on the other side, 2 black figures appeared again. What do you mean, there is such a terrifying cursed spirit? Do you know how much damage it will cause to society if the cursed spirit is released? A man said angrily. If I were you, I would definitely not come here to question me. You know, such a powerful cursed spirit was solved by 3 brats. Do you know what this means? Another man said calmly. Humph, you don't need to say it. What did the man think of when he heard this? Then he snorted and disappeared into the room. I didn't expect that they were solved, but there is no need to keep the waste. What makes me curious is that they actually killed the storm guy. I didn't get any information here. There was also a Susanoo. Fingers, the shadow said gloomily. On the other side, after the last mission, Gojo Satoru and others returned to their normal lives again. The popularity of the 3 during this time has made all 3 become first-level Jujutsu masters. The strength of the 3 people has become stronger and stronger as time goes by, but for some reason, the strength of the 3 people has reached a bottleneck. After this period of time of removing the cursed spirit, Ming's eyes were just a hair away from advancing to the eternal kaleidoscope. He felt that with another level 1 cursed spirit, his pupil power would increase dramatically. Another reason why the 3 of them could not go any further was that none of them could master the reversal technique. Today, the 3 of them rarely went out and wandered around, but discussed the reversal technique in the classroom. Satoru, do you know anything? Ming looked at Gojo Satoru, who was sitting lazily on the chair. Hey, no, I feel like something is missing. Gojo Satoru said helplessly. He's the only one who masters the reversal technique, Shayuji sighed helplessly. There is no way, Shoko's talent is just like our technique, Ming said helplessly. By the way, why does Ming want to learn the reversal technique so much? Your technique shouldn't be able to be reversed. Gojo Satoru doesn't understand why his best friend is so anxious to learn the reversal technique. You know, Ming is so strong that even Gojo Satoru is not sure that he can defeat Ming. Although he hates to admit it, without learning the reversal technique, there is a real possibility that he will lose to Ming. But Gojo Satoru, who has learned the reversal technique, is different. His standing strength will skyrocket in an instant. You must know that at that time, he can not only use the powerful repulsive force of Haku but also the unparalleled destructive power of Flaw. In terms of power, each of these 2 is greater than Kang. You must know that the maximum power of he is twice that of Kang and he is a map cannon. Space can be cut, and it also allows him to maintain no lower limit technique for a long time. Gojo Satoru has not learned the reversal technique, and he does not know that he can change it to automatic block yet. Well, I've been studying a jujutsu recently, but in my imagination I need to use a reversal technique. Ming said calmly. What kind of technique? Shayuji and Gojo Satoru were surprised. They actually needed to reverse the technique. It seemed like this technique was very powerful. This is just a theory. I don't dare to experiment without a reversal technique. After all, you will die if you are not careful. Ming said calmly. Oh, what type? Gojo Satoru became interested. Amplification category. Amplification. Is it so dangerous? Do you want Shoko to help? Shayuji suggested. No, because this requires the movement of magic power in the body, and Shoko uses a reversal technique, which may prevent the operation of my magic power, Ming said helplessly. Forget it, I don't believe it anymore. It doesn't matter whether we can reverse the technique or not. We are the strongest anyway. Gojo Satoru was completely defeated. Of course, if the magic power in his body does not work, Ming will naturally believe him. He also had to sigh that 6 eyes is so easy to use. This kind of control over the magic power is beyond his reach. Then we discussed it for a while without any results. At this time, Ming's cell phone received a text message. Ming said with a cold face. What's the matter? Those rotten oranges want to meet me. Ming said coldly. Oh, let's go then, Gojo Satoru said nonchalantly. Yeah, it's not a big deal, Shayuji said. That's true, but why should I see that garbage? I'm allergic to garbage, Ming said calmly. Ha 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 ha, you are worthy of being Ming, I support you, Gojo Satoru said happily. Having said that, it was the teacher who sent the message after all. Ming had a headache. He also respected Yaga Masamiki as a teacher, so he was also afraid that Yaga Masamiki would be difficult to do. At this moment, Yaga Masamiki sent a text message here. Ming, you decide whether to go or not. You don't have to think about me. Looking at this text message, Ming had a smile on his lips. Start editing text messages. I will go to Sansai teacher, but I need to talk to them. This matter will trouble the teacher, Ming edited the text message. On the other hand, Yaga Masamiki looked at Ming and nodded. Gojo Satoru's arrogance is different from Ming. The current Gojo Satoru will not consider the consequences, but Ming is different. Since sometimes you can't resist, you still have to show your position and attitude. Anyway, no one dares to touch Jujutsu High School with the 3 men around. During this time, those high-ranking executives did not contact Ming. Ming is also happy and free. During this time, Ming was crazy about taking on tasks in order to upgrade the Sharingan to the eternal Mangekyō Sharingan. You want to ask why? Of course it was the 2 Gojo Satoru and Natsumi, because Yaga Masamiki gave the 3 of them the task of extracting the cursed spirit, but at that time the cursed spirit could split itself into small pieces and fly into the sky. Then comes the problem. Among the 3, only Ming does not have the ability to fly. Gojo Satoru can use Kang's power to fly, while Shayuji can use cursed spirit to fly. Originally, Ming wanted to be with Shayuji, but Shayuji remembered that when they first entered school, neither of them teleported with him, so he immediately decided to leave Ming behind and start flying. This also leads to why Mei wants to quickly advance to the eternal Mangekyō Sharingan, because then his pupil power will skyrocket, allowing him to display the true form of Susanoo. Hey, who's there? Ming said coldly. Uchiha Mei. The top management of Jujutsu wants to see you. The other end said with a somewhat dissatisfied tone. Are you sick? He said and died without meditating. The person on the other end was very confused. This was the first time someone dared to hang up on him. Looks like those pieces of trash can't sit still anymore, Gojo Satoru said with a joking look on his face. Humph, they're just a bunch of self-righteous old guys. They really treat themselves like dishonest people. Shayuji also knew that those high-level officials were not good people. And just as the 3 of them were talking, the phone was turned on again. Uchiha Mei, I'm warning you that this is the meaning above, you must, the man ordered angrily. Are you ordering me? Ming's tone became even colder. Humph, you can think so. The voice on the other end said somewhat proudly. Give me your address, Ming said coldly, then hung up the phone. The man looked at the hung-up call and was not angry. Instead, he looked proud. As a senior executive, he had been pampered for so many years and had forgotten some things. Shayuji and Gojo Satoru looked at each other, with laughter and disgust flashing in their eyes. And this disgust was obviously directed at the idiot who said something rude to Ming. The 2 of them knew that that person was going to be unlucky, and they knew Ming best, because Ming's tenet was to do something, then don't do it, so people knew that Ming didn't compromise, but was really angry, and wanted to come forward to teach that person a lesson. People. Do you need us to accompany you? Shayuji looked at Ming Dao. No need, it's just a bunch of idiots, Ming said calmly. That's true, but I still have to remind you, Ming, although those guys are very annoying, it will be very troublesome if you kill them all. Gojo Satoru also reminded you at this time. Don't worry, although they are annoying, I won't go on a killing spree, but I have to let them adjust their status. Do you really think you can control any of them? Ming said disdainfully. Gojo Satoru and the 2 didn't say anything more. They knew that Minghui would handle this kind of thing. After a while, an address appeared on Ming's phone. Ming went there without any nonsense. The man who called Ming on the other end was standing humbly under a group of people and reported what had just happened. Heiken did a good job. You can go down first. If you come, let us know. Then the man said respectfully. Uchiha Ming, we don't know much about him in terms of intelligence, and we don't even know the technique very well. We only know that it is an electric current technique, but his strength is obviously not. A man caught him. Anyway, he can be on par with the one from the Gojo family and cursed spirit, so that's not too bad. And according to intelligence, that Uchiha Mei is even stronger than the current 6 eyes. A black man shadow said. No matter what, we must let this kid be used by us. This world does not allow uncertainties like Gojo Satoru to appear again. It's hard to say what the future holds. After all, the 6 eyes unlimited and cursed spirit techniques still have great potential, but in any case, since they can be on par with the current 2, at least they have the strength of a quasi-special first-level magician, we can still look forward to it. One man said, and everyone nodded. The current 6 eyes and cursed spirit techniques have not yet exerted their true power, so they don't think Ming can be on par with the 2 in the future, but at least now with Ming's strength, it's enough for them to pay attention to. On the other side, Ming had arrived at the address he gave. And Ming opened the Sharingan, and then discovered that there were various spells in a room, which seemed to be the high-rise room. Judging from the room, Ming walked over directly. No one. A Jujutsu master looked at Ming and stopped him. Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense. Sharingan appeared in his eyes, and then the man's eyes became dull, without any brilliance. Is that Kuromura Yusuke inside? Ming asked coldly. Yusuke Kuromura is the senior person who contacted Mei. Yes, the warlock replied like a puppet. Ming nodded and kicked the door without saying a word. And at this moment, a group of people suddenly surrounded Ming. Kuromura, who was studying, immediately looked at the door in horror. Then he immediately adjusted his expression. After all, the sudden move shocked him. Who are you? Himura sat on the sofa without making any move. You have to think about it, idiot, Ming said calmly, and Kuromura was not convinced and was surprised. After all, it was a long way from Jujutsu High School, and this family came here in less than half an hour. Uchiha Mei, Kuromura said. Then he changed his expression. You broke in without my order. What crime do you deserve? Himura said with a condescending look. Ming ignored him. His eyes narrowed slightly and a terrifying power filled his eyes. Then a huge spell force appeared, and a skeleton hand composed of spell force appeared next to Ming, and then swept towards the surrounding Jujutsu masters, and the Jujutsu masters flew backwards instantly. Ming Man walked towards Kuromura Yusuke. You guys, what are you doing? Although Yusuke Kuromura was frightened, he still pretended to be calm as a senior executive and asked. He didn't believe that anyone dared to do anything to him. Idiot, you still can't see what's going on. Mei's blood-red Sharingan stared at the man in front of him, and then Susanoo's hollow arm grabbed Kuromura Yusuke. At this time, Kuromura Yusuke finally panicked, fear flashing in his eyes. How dare you, a piece of trash, give me orders? Who gave you the courage? Ming looked at the man in front of him with serious disdain, and a terrifying power burst out from his eyes. Then the man's eyes glazed over. Ming then threw the man aside like trash, and then picked up the mobile phone that Kuromura had placed on the seat. Then make a phone call. What's going on? A majestic voice appeared on the other end. Oh, are you this idiot's superior? Ming said calmly. Who are you? The voice on the other end paused for a moment, but quickly responded. Uchiha Ming, don't you want to see me? I'm under your command now. I'll give you 20 minutes to come over and see me immediately. Remember, this is an order, Ming said coldly. You only have 20 minutes. Ming hung up the phone without the person having a chance to speak. The man on the other end threw his cell phone to the ground with an angry look on his face. No one had dared to talk to him like this for many years. He was extremely angry at this time. But he had to take care of Yusuke Kuromura. Although he didn't care about the lives of his men, Yusuke Kuromura had a different identity. Come on, I want to go out. Then he gathered his troops and headed towards Kuromura Yusuke's place. Yes, my lord, I'm awake, it seems like he's not such a loser. Ming sat in Heiken's seat and looked calmly at the pale and frightened Heiken in front of him. You, Heiken said fearfully, aren't you crazy? Ming looked at Heiken coldly. Do you know who I am? Heiken said with a tired look but anger in his eyes. It seems that you haven't recognized your position yet. Why do you want to continue to indulge in illusions? The environment this time seems to be a bit worse, Ming said lightly. No, no, panic flashed in Heiken's eyes. The environment was so terrifying that he never wanted to enter it again in his life. Oh, you're scared, are you still crazy? Ming glanced at it, and then looked outside, because an old man had already entered. The old man walked into the house, followed by a jujutsu master. You are Uchiha Mei. The old man's eyes were full of majesty. Now that you know, stop talking nonsense and just say what you have to say. I don't have a good impression of old people like you, Ming said calmly. At this moment, the figure behind him moved instantly and turned blood red. A blood arrow shot towards Ming, but Ming did not dodge. Curse power surged around his body, and a blue arm protected Ming inside. Then he pinched the Kamo family member with his big hand. Red blood exercise. Red scale jumping. Then the figure fell to the ground to avoid it. Red blood magic. Are you from the Kamo family? Sure enough, the Kamo family is the weakest among the big three sorcerer families, Ming said calmly. Why are you doing this? The old man looked at Heiken. Because I don't like what he says, and I don't like the tone of your voice either. Ming stood up from the sofa at this time. Blood-red eyes appeared in the eye sockets. What kind of eyes are these? The old man looked at Ming in surprise. Ming ignored the old man's shock and his speed suddenly increased. And that Aiimo's family fired many bloody arrows this time. Ming smiled slightly but did not avoid it. Bloody arrows passed through his body. What? He, who had been calm just now, completely changed. Genjutsu Sharingan, and the moment you looked at each other, he fell into the illusion. You walked slowly to Aiimo's side of the red blood jutsu. And just as they approached, the eyes of the famous Aimojia instantly regained their luster. It's too late, Ming then punched out, and the man from the Kamo family flew backwards instantly. The old man who watched the two fighting also looked at Ming in surprise. You must know that this guard has the strength of a first-level magician, and he is still very strong. He did not expect to be suppressed like this. Red blood technique, blood rain and poison arrows. I saw that the originally bright red blood had begun to turn into purple red, and was shot towards Ming like raindrops. Ming did not dodge, and let the raindrops rush towards him. His body was like an illusion, and the blood rain passed through his body from time. What on earth is it? Kamo Yan looked at Ming in surprise. At this time, Ming summoned Susanoo again. Although such an intensive attack can be insubstantial, and his incorporation can last for 15 minutes, he cannot attack during this period. Note: 15 minutes is a stage, that is to say, you only need 15 minutes of uninterrupted attacks to defeat him. If it stops in the middle, causing Ming's body to not partially notice the divine power space during this period, then you need to start from the beginning. In other words, either attack Ming continuously for 15 minutes, or don't attack at all. And Ming's virtualization is automatic. Mei transformed into Susanoo's second form. Although it was only half a body, the huge body still had an unparalleled sense of oppression. A light sword appeared in the hand of the four-handed Susanoo, and then the sword struck the Kamo family member, and an arm flew high in the air in an instant. Stop, the old man yelled. After hearing this, Ming not only did not stop, but instead asked Susanoo to evolve a set of Karasu Tengu armor and put it on his body. Then he turned to look at the old man and said coldly, "Are you ordering me, old guy?" "You can understand it that way," the old man said in a stiff tone. "Stupid." Ming said nothing and struck the guy with red blood magic with his sword. And Kamo Yan's body, which was pierced by the Jukin sword, began to fly towards the gourd of Ming Susanoo. At this moment, Mei suddenly covered his eyes and removed Susanoo. By this time his eyes had returned to normal. "What did you do?" The old man looked at Ming angrily. "Just kill him. The old man remembers that no one can order me. If there is another time, it will be you who will die." Ming ignored the old man, then glanced at the two of them coldly, and his whole body twisted and finally disappeared from the sight of the two people. But after Ming Zhou, a trace of joy flashed in their eyes, and then a feeling of humiliation and anger intertwined in their hearts. At the same time, I secretly cursed, "Madman." The reason why Ming let the two of them go and left so quickly was because the pain, which was like having his eyes gouged out, forced him to go back early, so there was no reason to embarrass the old man. At this time, Gojo Satoru and Shoko, who looked bored, were wandering around the high school, discussing what to eat for a while, and at this moment, a whirlpool appeared in front of the three of them. Ah. At this time, Ming was extremely embarrassed, his handsome face was extremely ferocious, and his forehead was covered with sweat. Gojo Satoru and Shayuji Shoko came over immediately upon seeing this. Ming, are you okay? Shoko said with concern. At this time, Ming Zhao was in pain to the point of confusion. Shayuji and Gojo Satoru looked at their embarrassed best friend with gloomy expressions on their faces. They did not mock Ming because they knew where Ming had gone this time. I want to kill someone. Gojo Satoru's handsome face was full of indifference, and even Shoko was shocked when he saw this expression. Me too, Shayuji said the same, their eyes filled with murderous intent. Shoko, take care of Ming, Shayuji said, and then he and Gojo Satoru slowly turned around and walked outside the high school. At this time, Yaga Masamiki happened to be passing by and saw Ming in pain. He looked worried on his face and walked over immediately. What's wrong? Yaga Masamiki asked with concern. I don't know either. Ming suddenly appeared here, screaming in pain, and reversing the technique was useless. At this time, Shoko was also anxious and even had tears in his eyes. Yaga Masamiki was startled when he saw the two men full of murderous intent. What are you two doing? Yaga Masamiki shouted. The two of them seemed not to hear anything and continued walking forward. Come back, Wuyong, Jia, Ming said with difficulty at this time. After hearing this, the two finally stopped and looked back at Ming. The two men looked at Ming with murderous intent still unabated. But they still came back. They understood Ming, and even if Ming was really plotted by those people, they would not let them interfere. The two looked at each other and walked towards Ming. This time they decided that they must go no matter what Ming said. You two are big idiots, Ming said painfully. You two big idiots, who do you think I are, and Satoru his mother, is 6 eyes a decoration. After saying this, Ming suddenly fainted. Why, the reversal spell has no effect. Ming, wake up, Shoko shouted excitedly. Gojo Satoru looked at Ming with 6 eyes this time. When he saw Ming's embarrassed look just now, he was instantly filled with anger. He didn't think much, and he didn't look at Ming carefully. Shayuji also calmed down. The look of his best friend just now made him feel like Gojo Satoru. Now that he calmed down, he thought carefully that no matter how strong the high-level people were, they couldn't make Ming so embarrassed. Gojo Satoru finally understood what was going on. Ming's body now had no injuries or poisoning. Instead, the spell power on his body increased sharply again, and a strange energy slowly transformed into special energy. Gojo Satoru knew that this power was called pupil power by Ming, and at this time, Ming's pupil power also began to increase. Then it gathers in the eyes. How's it going, Wu? Shayuji asked eagerly. I think Ming must be fine. If I'm not mistaken, his eyes are evolving, Gojo Satoru told everyone as he scratched his head and looked at what he saw. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and felt relieved, and they sent Ming back to the room. Wu, it seems that this matter is not what we imagined. Let's ask the teacher. If Mingzin is really being plotted, we will go there, Shayuji said. Gojo Satoru nodded and went directly to Yaga Masamiki's office without any nonsense. Yaga Masamiki had just finished making a phone call at this time, and he was not surprised to see the two people coming. Whatever you want to ask, just say it directly, Yaga Masamiki pinched the bridge of his nose and said. Sansai, we want to know if Ming has been plotted against, Shayuji said. Although Ming is powerful, it's hard to say if he was plotted against. No, don't worry, when he passed away this time, he not only beat Yusuke Kuromura, but also killed the guards of Shuichi Teiyama, the high-ranking officer. He also threatened them and then came back. Yaga Masamiki looked like he had a headache, said. Ha, is this the underworld? Gojo Satoru said carelessly, returning to his previous appearance. Yes, this is very Ming style. Shayuji also had a smile on his face. Looking at the two people whose faces changed, Yaga Masamiki roared angrily, get out of here. The two of them looked at the angry Yaga Shindo with a confused look on his face, as if he was losing his temper. Sansai, are you going through menopause? Gojo Satoru asked with concern. No way, the teacher is too young at this age, Shayuji said. Get out of here right now. Yaga Masamiki picked up the documents on the table and threw them at the two of them, and they left the room instantly. When the two left, Yaga Masamiki smiled happily, especially for Gojo Satoru. Among them, he knew Gojo Satoru best. He also saw Satoru like that once. At this time, Yaga Masamiki picked up the phone and made a call. Hi, I'm Yaga Masamiki. I know about this, but I can't touch my student. Do you know what you are talking about? The voice on the other end was serious. Of course I know, don't you want the method of making cursed bones? I'll tell you, Yaga Masamiki said. Then hung up the phone. Then he looked at the ceiling. At this time, outside the office. I didn't expect you to be so attentive, woo, Shayuji praised. TCH, I just want to hear if there is any useful information. Then Gojo Satoru left with a proud look on his face. Shayuji shook his head and looked at Gojo Satoru with a smile and then followed. Time passes and night falls. At this time, in Ming's room, a girl was lying next to the boy's bed, and the boy lying on the bed slowly opened his eyes. Looking at the girl lying next to him, he smiled slightly and reached out his hand to gently rub the girl's hair, with a gentle smile on his face. When the girl felt someone touching her, she immediately opened her sleepy eyes and looked at Ming. Silly girl, go back and rest, Ming said softly, looking at Xiaoxi whose eyes were full of red bloodshot eyes. Looking at Ming, the girl immediately became energetic. You're awake, are you okay? Shoko, who was unresponsive, exclaimed. At this time, Gojo Satoru and Shayuji from next door heard the sound and rushed over immediately. Are you okay, Ming? Ryuji asked with concern. It's okay, I made everyone worried, Ming said gently. That's disgusting, Ming. Gojo Satoru looked at Gojo Satoru with a look of disgust. Shayuji also nodded, indicating that this was not in line with Ming's character. Go away, Ming Xiao scolded. Ha 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 ha. Gojo Satoru and others laughed. By the way, Ming, what happened? Shoko asked. Maya explained the general process without any concealment. Gojo Satoru and Shayuji were not surprised after all, they had already learned the process from Yaga Masamiki. So what happened to you just now? But you worried Satoru and Shoko a lot, Shayuji said with a sinister tone. What are you talking about, idiot Jia? Why am I worried about him? Gojo Satoru said disdainfully. Shoko smiled slightly. He has known Gojo Satoru for a long time, and this was the first time he saw Gojo Satoru like that. Although Gojo Satoru was very scary at that time, she knew that Gojo Satoru was very humane and unlike before, he only acted based on his preferences, of perversion. TCH, forget it Shoko, you two big men have nothing to worry about. Besides, who do you think I am? What can those old immortals do to me? Although Ming was a little confused in the morning, he still knowing what Shayuji and Gojo Satoru were going to do, he was slightly moved. Shoko also blushed a little when she heard this. Hey, that's strange, Shoko, why are you blushing? Gojo Satoru asked curiously. Shoko waited for these words, glared at Gojo Satoru, and finally changed the topic immediately. Ming, what on earth is going on? You shocked us then. Ming opened his eyes, the scarlet Sharingan rotated rapidly, and saw an 8-pointed star appearing in Ming's eyes, and there was a small 4-pointed dart in the 8-pointed star. This eye was not only more exquisite than other kaleidoscopes, but also it is more complex, as if all the kaleidoscopes are combined, making these deep eyes even more bewitching. This is the newly born Mangekyō Sharingan, and it feels even more terrifying, Shayuji said with a surprised look on his face. No, it has evolved. The eternal Mangekyō Sharingan is the endpoint of the Sharingan's evolution, which means that no new pupil techniques will be born. Ming said lightly. Oh, there's nothing special about it, Gojo Satoru said calmly. The eternal Mangekyō Sharingan is called eternal because during the Mangekyō period, if I overdraw my pupil power, my eyes will go blind. Of course, I can recover, but that is when I am unconscious and I am the most vulnerable, but this time it's different, this will never happen with the eternal kaleidoscope. Ming said calmly. Actually, the principle is that when I use the pupil technique, I not only consume the magic power but also the pupil power, but the eyes of Wanwatong are actually consuming the pupil power all the time. But the special magic power in my body can replenish this pupil power that is consumed all the time, so it is a burden to me, but eternity is different. It not only increases my pupil power, but also the pupil power will never be there. As time goes by, since I awakened Kaleidoscope, I haven't felt such abundant pupil power for a long time, Ming explained excitedly. So, that is, your kaleidoscope is equivalent to unplugging the plug from a large bathtub, and the eternal kaleidoscope not only repairs the leak, but also becomes a swimming pool that does not leak. Gojo Satoru said. That's your explanation is correct, Shayuji said with a speechless expression. Not only that, all my pupil skills are also integrated together, so not only can all pupil skills be used, but also some new tricks can be played. Ming said lightly. Oh, that's pretty good. Shayuji nodded. Humph, the most important thing is, Ming smiled mysteriously. What do you mean by this smile? Gojo Satoru and Shayuji felt that this smile was definitely aimed at them. The most important thing is that I now have the ability to fly, Ming said proudly. What, that's it? Gojo Satoru said disdainfully. This. Shayuji also looked at Ming as if he were an idiot. He felt that this was Ming Dao's most useless ability now, and he actually said at last. Don't forget, those two fools didn't take me with them last time, Ming said with an angry look. Ah, Shoko looked at Ming, who was as angry as a child and was speechless. It can fly, why? Shayuji asked. Let's go, take the teacher with you so that you can gain knowledge. I feel that I am definitely the strongest now, Ming said calmly. Although the two of them were disdainful, they also knew that Ming couldn't resist and did not refute. The four of them found Yaga Masamiki. Yaga Masamiki was making a cursed skeleton. When he saw Ming Sheng, he expressed some concern. He also knew what Ming meant and nodded in agreement. After all, he was also curious about Ming's ability to evolve. Then the five people came to the practice field. Watch you two guys, I can fly, Ming said as he clapped his hands and the spell power burst out instantly. The huge spell force blew Ming's hair to stand on end. The coquettish crimson eyes bloomed with a strange red light, and the huge power of the eyes also exploded. 3 deaths, Susanoo. Then the spell power began to slowly condense into shape, and then a skeleton appeared and slowly grew into a face and finally legs, and then a spell force burst out from Ming's body. And then layers of armor appeared, and then a white light flashed, and everyone closed their eyes. When everyone opened their eyes again, there was a blue giant more than 100 meters tall standing in front of them, and there was a pair of huge wings behind his back. 2 samurai swords were strapped to his waist. The giant was majestic, and even standing there, a sense of oppression made everyone feel cold. At this time, Mei was standing in the crystal on Susanoo's forehead. Everyone was speechless in shock, even Gojo Satoru was shocked. Is this the ultimate eye technique that resides in the kaleidoscope? Shayuji murmured. The power of God, Susanoo, Gojo Satoru also said in surprise. He originally thought this was what Ming Shifu said, but knowing that Ming had a divine weapon like the Jukin sword didn't feel like it was anything special, but this completed body Susanoo. It's so shocking. You must know that Susanoo with legs is only more than 30 meters tall, but this Susanoo is 100 meters tall. And the feeling of oppression is not of the same magnitude. How about it, isn't it cool? Let me show off my flying ability. Looking at the surprised people, Susanoo said in disbelief, and then Susanoo opened his wings, and a terrible strong wind swept away. Gojo Satoru and Ryuji reacted instantly and began to set up barriers around them. Idiot, Ming, stop, Shayuji shouted. He didn't want to repair the playground at night. Hearing this, Huan Ming immediately stopped Susanoo. He looked at the surrounding trees with an embarrassed look and scratched his head. He was a little too complacent just now. And looking at Yaga Masamiki, who was recovering from the shock, he also had a dark look on his face. Ha ha ha, that Sansai, that was an accident, Ming said with some embarrassment. HMPH, Yaga Masamiki didn't say much and started to look at Susanoo. Gojo Satoru and Shayuji also looked around. Wow, that's really cool. Gojo Satoru said with some envy. Touch here, touch there. The same goes for Shayuji. After all, this majestic and Gundam-like giant is simply a man's romance. At this time, Mei and Susanoo looked at their two close friends with a proud look on their face. How about it? It's handsome, and it flies absolutely fast, Ming said with a proud look on his face. Yuki and Gojo Satoru were angry and sulky, admitting that they were jealous. Oh, I'll take you to experience it next time. How can I put it? It's me as expected, ha ha ha, Ming laughed. And right now, May, please try not to use Susanoo in this state in the future, Yaga Masamiki said. What did you say, sensei? Mingen looked at Yaga Masamiki with an ugly face and said. Your Susanoo is too destructive and too big, causing unnecessary panic, Yaga Masamiki explained. But, stop talking, it's settled. With that, Yaga Masamiki turned and walked away. Sensei, Ming shouted, looking at the back of his grandfather Masamiki. Ha 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 ha, oh, don't be so pessimistic. We will fly with you when nothing happens. Gojo Satoru put his arm around Ming's neck with a smirk on his face. At this moment, Ming looked hopeless. Yes, Ming, don't take it to heart. Yuki also came over to comfort him, with a smile and joy in his long and narrow eyes. Asshole, get out of here, he said and walked away in despair. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, the two looked at each other in despair, and finally couldn't help laughing. Completely ignoring Ming who looked back at them, Ming's resentful look made the two of them laugh even louder. Ming ignored it and walked back to the room dejectedly. Why, I just want to fly. Why is it so difficult? Those two Wu and Jia, how dare you laugh at me? I'm waiting to write it down in your notebook. Ming returned to the room and said with a resentful look on his face. At this time, Yuki and Gojo Satoru, who were happily back in their own rooms, suddenly shuddered. They didn't know what was happening. It's strange, there's so much resentment, Yuki and Gojo Satoru said at the same time in the room, then ignored them and continued to sleep. The white colt passes by, spring passes and autumn comes. Time passed quickly, and Tokyo was already covered in heavy snow. One semester passed quickly. At this time, in Jujutsu High School, 3 streetwalkers were walking aimlessly. There was a look of boredom written on his face. By the way, when are you leaving, Jia? Ming looked at Ming and said. After all, it's the spring festival, New Year's Day. Tomorrow, I haven't gone back to see him for a long time, Yuki said helplessly. What about you, Ming? Yuki asked. Me, it doesn't matter, I'm alone anyway. But I plan to go abroad and travel. Ming said calmly. Satoru, what about you? I still have to go back, otherwise the old man at home will be annoyed to death, Gojo Satoru said helplessly. Let's go to the classroom. Teacher Yaga is probably waiting impatiently. Then the three of them walked towards the classroom. Yaga Masamiki looked at the three of them speechlessly, but he continued to scold them in the last class. Yaga Masamiki finished the lecture quickly. Sensei, Ming raised his hand and said. Is something wrong? That sensei, I have to go abroad during this period, so don't give me tasks. I want to take a good vacation, Ming said with yearning. Okay, Yaga Masamiki nodded. He still knew the quirks of his student. He did not allow any interruptions during the vacation and ignored any tasks. Hey, I really envy Ming, Shoko said listlessly. It's okay, I just need to relax, Ming said happily. Then everyone packed up their things. Gojo Satoru and Yuki were leaving tomorrow, while Ming had a flight tonight. As for Shoko, it will be the day after tomorrow when he and Yaga Masamiki drop by. Yuki, Gojo Satoru and Shoko also came to send Ming off. Let me tell you first, don't disturb me if nothing happens, and don't disturb me if something happens. Ming said to Gojo Satoru and Yuki. Who will contact you if nothing happens? Gojo Satoru said with a proud look on his face. That's good, I'm most worried about Wu. Ming said lightly. Gojo Satoru argued with Mei angrily. Yuki, surrounded by gentle smiles, Shoko also looked at the two of them with smiles, and then boarded the plane. The three of them also walked to school. After about a day, Ming finally arrived abroad. He found a hotel and started enjoying his vacation time. During this period, Ming visited various famous attractions like an ordinary person every day. Moreover, it was the spring festival during this period, so Yuki and Shoko both talked to Ming on the phone, and even Gojo Satoru called, although his tone was impatient. At this time, Ming was in a coffee shop, and a waiter came to Ming with coffee. Sir, your coffee. The waiter came over with the coffee and a note. Ming nodded and opened it, took a look at it, then threw the note in the trash can and continued drinking coffee. The waiter who saw this scene was a little disappointed. It was the first time in so many years that she saw such a handsome man. She was also very moved, but it was obvious that Ming was not interested in her. On the other side, a beautiful woman with yellow hair and a tall figure happened to see this scene. She looked at the man in front of her out of curiosity. Although she was from behind, he also noticed the huge magic power in her body. He was curious as to what this man was doing here. "Sir, could you please buy me a cup of coffee?" The tall woman sat down opposite the man without politeness. "Okay," Ming said calmly. Then he called the waiter and ordered a cup of coffee. "I'm curious, why do you and I come here?" "I have a mission," the woman said. "No, I'm just here for vacation," Ming said coldly, looking out the window. "Still so cold. After all, this is the second time we've met," the woman said. "But we are not familiar with each other. There is also a special lady. In what capacity are you talking to me now?" "Yes, the beautiful woman in front of me is the super magician Yuki Kuju." "Is there any difference?" Yuki Kuju said after taking a sip of coffee. "If you are a jujutsu master, then you can leave." Mei looked at Juju Yuki and said. "Then as an acquaintance, how can we say that this is the second time we met, and the first communication was very pleasant?" Yuki Kuju said. "It's up to you." Ming said no more. "When will you go back?" Juju Yuji looked at Ming, who was silent, and said with a smile. "In 2 months, Ming replied calmly. "Since you are here for a vacation, I think you need a guide," Kuju Yuki said. Ming looked at Juju Yuji and knew what she meant, and then nodded. After all, he was not familiar with this place. "Then can I call you Ming?" Juju Yuji said. Ming nodded. To be honest, the reason why he is so optimistic and indifferent to Juju Yuki is not because of anything else but because he can't see through this woman. He doesn't know what my purpose is for this woman. Afterwards, the two of them started traveling aimlessly together during this period. What made Ming a little crushed was that this woman turned out to be a road addict. Although she was indeed familiar with this place, she went to the wrong place every time. Ming looked at the cute Juju Yuki and almost ran away. 99 Yuki, you guy, are you sure this is here? Ming said with a dark look on his face as he looked at the environment here. "Ah, it seems possible, we're lost again," Juju said with a headache on his face. And Ming looked at Juju Yuji and turned around to leave. "Hey, wait for me, Ming." Juju Yuji followed, while Ming walked forward with a cold face. "Okay, don't be angry, this time it was an accident," 99 Yuki explained. Ming ignored her. This was the first time. He had had enough. He had to get rid of this woman, otherwise his vacation would become a mess. 99 Yuki also followed helplessly, and the two of them arrived at the place where they lived. Ming closed the door, leaving Juju Yuji with a helpless look. "Hey, please open the door. It's really unexpected this time," Yuki Kuju said while knocking on the door. Ming inside made you a cup of coffee and ignored the woman outside. He had to get rid of this woman, otherwise his plan would fail. "Asshole, Uchiha Mei, you actually have a mistress. Open the door quickly, open the door, don't hide in there and keep silent. I know you are at home." Yuki outside the door started acting like a monster again. At this time, other people in the hotel also looked over. "Asshole," Ming said with a dark look on his face, put down his coffee, and immediately pulled Juju Yuki into the room in front of everyone's eyes. "What on earth do you want to do?" Ming looked at Juju Yuji. "Who told you to ignore me?" Juju Yuji sat on the sofa and took a drink of the coffee Ming had just drank. "That's enough, 99 Yuki, now you are fired," Ming said coldly. "That's not okay, my dear." Yuki Kuju made a seductive gesture. And Ming's face turned green. Roll. On a beach, a handsome young man was lying there comfortably. Ling ling ling, voices one after another ruined the atmosphere. The young man frowned and took out his mobile phone. Looking at the phone display, the young man hung up the phone decisively. But the other end of the phone called again. "Hey, Satoru, you'd better really have something going on, otherwise I'm not done with you." Yes, the person opposite who has been making harassing calls is Gojo Satoru, and the angry boy is naturally Ming. Ming finally drove away the 99 Yuki who was pestering him, and was enjoying his free time when Gojo Satoru called. Hey, Ming, you guys have been back to school for a long time, when will you come back? Gojo Satoru automatically ignored Ming's dissatisfaction. Yaga-sansai and I have both taken leave. Why are you so anxious? I'm on vacation. Don't call me if you have nothing to do. After saying this, Ming hung up the phone. Ming had a headache on his face. Ever since he met the woman named Yuki Juju, she had been pestering him. He didn't understand why the woman would be like that, even if she was a special grade. I don't know how Ming spent these more than a month. He had a good vacation, but it was all ruined by that woman. So to redeem himself he took a leave of absence from Yaga Masamiki. On the other side, Gojo Satoru looked at the phone with an unhappy expression. Okay, leave him alone. That guy Ming is also very helpless during this time. Sha Yuji patted Gojo Satoru on the shoulder. After hearing Sha Yuji's words, Gojo Satoru remembered that Ming called him during that time and complained about Yuji Juju's words, with a smile on his lips. As close friends, the two of them naturally knew Ming. When the guy was on vacation, even they, as close friends, didn't pay much attention to him. What's more, Kuju Yuki has an unusually talkative personality. Okay, hurry up and go. If you don't go, you won't be able to pick up the two new students, Sha Yuji reminded. I know, it's so annoying, Gojo Satoru complained. The two of them didn't talk nonsense and went to Tokyo to pick up the so-called new students. Ming also knew about it. There was no task at the beginning of the school year. It was just that there were two new students to enroll, so it was very troublesome. Ming only asked for leave, and neither did Yaga Masamiki. Whatever you say, you agree. Ming, who was in Shanyu at this time, had just entered the state when another call came. Ming answered the phone with a dark look on his face. Hello, honey, what are you doing? A nice female voice sounded on the other end of the phone. What are you going to do, Juju Yuji? Call me by my name, and I'm on vacation, so don't bother me anymore. Ming's cold voice was filled with anger. Oh, do people just care about you? After all, I'm gone, won't you be lonely? Juju Yuji didn't care about Ming's anger. Just as Juju said something else, the other party hung up. Juju Yuji was not surprised. He called again, but the other party never picked up. After Ming hung up the phone, he decisively threw the phone in the Shinwei space and continued his leisurely life. Isn't it really just a joke? Humph, just wait for me, Uchiha Mei. Kuju Yuki said with a bad smile. Teacher. Oh, what's wrong, kid? Teacher, my name is not Kid, my name is Todo Aoi, and please pay attention to your appearance. A young Shota corrected Masamiki, and then looked around. I know, little Todo, I have something else to do here. I'm looking for a teacher for you. You can stay there for a while first, Juju said, and then a smile suddenly appeared on his lips. By the way, then you will be like this encryption, remember you must say this, otherwise. Little Todo looked at Yuki Kuju with a malicious look on his face, and nodded obediently. On the other side, Gojo Satoru has received a new student. How can I say that these two new students are completely two extremes? One has a cold and spiritless face with mature eyes, while the other is just the opposite, with a cheerful personality, like a little son of. Senior Shiu, what's your technique? Haihara Shang, a young man with vitality like a little son asked excitedly. It's the cursed spirit technique, Sha Yuji said gently. He also liked this energetic back very much. Wow, that's amazing. You really deserve to be a senior. You're too strong, aren't you Nanami? Haihara Yu said happily, and then touched the expressionless Nanami next to him. Nanami glanced at him and ignored the excited Haihara Yu. Gojo Satoru looked at Sha Yuji with an unhappy expression. What about Gojo Senpai? He looks so strong, Haibara Yu said. Gojo Satoru immediately talked about this technique. Hear Gojo Satoru explain. Wow, isn't that invincible? It's super strong, Haibara Yu said in surprise, and Nanami also looked at Gojo Satoru. It didn't want a novice like Haibara who knew nothing. It knew nothing. What does the lower limit mean? However, take it Nanami, no matter how I look at it, I feel that Gojo Satoru is unreliable. He felt this way from the first time they met. Seniors are all so strong. Haihara Shang said with admiration. Of course, we are the strongest, Gojo Satoru said, grabbing Sha Yuji's shoulders. Although Satoru's words are very unreliable, this is indeed true. We are the strongest trio, Sha Yuji said with a gentle look. Is there a trio? Is there another senior? It's such a cool combination. Then Nanami, let's make a combination too, Haihara Yu said. Boring, Nanami said coldly. Haibara didn't pay attention to Nanami's words and continued to ask, what's that senior's name? My name is Uchiha Mei. As for him, he's not turning around at all, Sha Yuji said. Did you go on some secret mission? Haihara Shang said with a confused look. No, I'm going on a trip. Sha Yuji was also a little bit embarrassed by Haihara Shang and had a cold sweat on his face. Travel, ha, Haiyuan Shang said with wide eyes. Nanami's eyes lit up at this time, and she wanted to meet this senior she had never met before. Yeah, because we don't have any missions, he took time off for vacation, and that fool didn't take us with him. Gojo Satoru looked angry. After hearing what Gojo Satoru said, Nanami Kento decided to pay a visit when this senior came back. Of course, on the other side, Ming didn't know what they were talking about, and he was even less interested. He just wanted to take a good vacation and enjoy the beautiful scenery by himself. Although the world is full of curse, both the scenery and the air are very good. This is why he likes to travel and vacation. Another thing is that the Sharingan affects him to some extent, so he likes to relax. It's also a way for him to relieve stress. At this time, at the Tokyo airport, two handsome men were standing there bored. Several scouts came back disappointed from the men. Many talent scouts, even though they were rejected, still refused to give up and looked at the two of them. The two men are so outstanding. Even standing there, they are so outstanding. If they are signed, they will definitely become popular. That Ming, just come back and ask us to pick him up. He has had enough fun and doesn't he know that we are very busy? Gojo Satoru complained. Those two men are naturally Gojo Satoru and Sha Yuji. Okay, please stop talking, woo. Why are we close friends? Sha Yuji comforted. HMPH, I'm just unhappy. Why are we training those two freshmen while he is out on vacation? Gojo Satoru said angrily. Okay, didn't you always complain about Ming's absence when he was away? Don't say it anymore when he comes back this time, Sha Yuji said, holding his forehead. The two of them were also very rogue when Ming was not around. After all, they were not as good as Ming in terms of enjoying life. Although the freshmen who exercised every day were more interesting, they had to hold back every time, which made them even more frustrated, especially Gojo Satoru. Just as the two were complaining, a handsome man came out carrying a box. The man had black hair and a delicate face. Even though his face was obscured by sunglasses, you could still tell how handsome the man was. In this island country where the average height is less than 1.7 meters, men stand out even more with a height of over 1.9 meters. The cold temperament of the man also discourages many people who want to strike up a conversation, and the people around him also consciously make way for the man. This scene makes the man even more dazzling like the sun. Saxi Buli, long time no see, woo, Jia, Ming saw the two of them at first sight when he appeared again, and then walked towards them. Hey, long time no see, Ming. Sha Yuji looked at Ming and said hello happily. Gojo Satoru, on the other hand, tilted his head arrogantly and looked very unhappy. Hey, Satoru, you are still acting like this when you see your friend. It's a shame I brought you a souvenir, Ming said with an unhappy look. Snort, I brought it, but it's the best dessert in the United States, woo. Ming said with a pity look on his face. Hearing this, Gojo Satoru's eyes lit up. As expected, Ming, ha ha ha, Gojo Satoru is quite thick-skinned. He held Ming in his arms and said, ha ha ha, go back quickly. Sha Yuji looked at the two of them very happily. Looking at the appearance of the three people, the eyes of the scouts around him gradually became hot. These three men were so perfect. He had never seen such a perfect combination in all his years in this industry. But before they could go up, the three figures had already disappeared in front of them. Ming and the three of them talked for a few words, and the three of them had already found a deserted place. Ming used his divine power to return to Gao Zhuan. Hey, Shoko, long time no see Sansai. Yaga Masamiki and Shoko, who were training new students outside the playground at this time, heard a familiar voice and turned to look at Mei walking towards them, and both of them smiled. Welcome back, Ming, Shoko smiled sweetly. And Yaga Masamiki also nodded. Hello, senior. Hello, Ming senpai, Nanami Kento and Haihara Yunori, who were training at this time, greeted politely. Hello, Ming Yi smiled slightly. After all, he was his junior, and Gojo Satoru and Shayuji both recognized them, so he didn't resist. Come on, there are gifts. This is Shoko's, this is Jia's, this is Satoru's, and this is for you too. I don't know what you like. Mei opened his box and distributed the gifts to everyone. Haihara Yu and Nanami Kento were also surprised. They didn't expect them to have it. You're here just in time, Ming. The next step is to leave the physical skills test to you, Yaga Masamiki said. Okay, no problem, Ming also agreed. After all, he had been fishing for so long, and it would be bad if he refused. Both of them looked at Ming. They were trained by Shayuji and Gojo Satoru. Both of them were as powerful as monsters. Especially when facing Gojo Satoru, it was a kind of despair that could not be shaken no matter how hard you tried. Shayuji is also very powerful. With a wave of his hand, many cursed spirit armies appear. Although he is also desperate, Gojo Satoru's technique is too stupid. They don't know this senior technique yet, but for the two of them to call it a monster, it must be no different. Come on, let's go together, no matter what method you use. You have to go with the purpose of killing me, otherwise you won't have the slightest chance, Ming said lightly. Is it really possible, senior? Haihara Shang said. Wear tape, it's okay, dial Q to match Karna, I'm the strongest, Ming said with confidence. Hearing this, Nanami Kento and Haihara Yu's eyes narrowed. This sentence means that this senior is a monster like Gojo Satoru and Shayuji. In a high school full of monsters, if this sentence does not have a powerful strength, who dares to say that? The two of them looked at Ming, and without any nonsense, they started to explode the curse power. Nanami took out a cursed tool that looked like a kitchen knife from her back. Cut to the underworld's leg. Ming smiled slightly, then jumped back. At this time, Haiyuanshang's hand was wrapped with magic power and he punched Ming. Ming smiled slightly and kicked out, sending Wei Yuan flying. And Nanami catches Haibara. The spell surged. 10-stroke spell. At this time, Nanami Kento stabbed with a knife. Ming frowned. The Sharingan, red eyes appeared at this time, looking at Nanami Kento who was attacking. Then the magic power was wrapped in the fist and punched out. And Nanami could see it too. Then Nanami took a few steps back, while Ming stood there and looked at his fists. Strange, what is it? Whether it is the attack just now or the first attack, it seems ordinary in any way, but it can resist my attack. The power is not proportional to the power output of the spell, Ming said curiously. In that case, let's try again. Ming started to fight Nanami Kento and Haihara Yu. Haibara Yu also used his Jujutsu, and Haihara Yu's Jujutsu was analyzed during the battle. The Buji Jujutsu can transform one's strength, speed, and even spell power into one's own strengths, sacrificing speed to increase strength, sacrificing power to increase speed, and even using the power of one's body to increase spell power. It is a very interesting jujutsu. Although Nanami Kento's jujutsu is very complicated, Ming has roughly figured it out after the attack just now. Is this your birth technique? It's really interesting. Each one is very special. Xiao Haibara's jujutsu is good at sacrificing one attribute to increase another. And little Nanami is very special. Your jujutsu can actually hit a critical strike-like spell at a designated location, Ming said calmly. It's not exactly like forcibly creating a weakness. If the analysis is correct, it would be at a position of 7-3, forcibly creating a weakness, thereby dealing damage that is not in line with the output. Ming said. Hearing what Ming said, Nanami Kento and Haihara Yu looked surprised, especially Nanami Kento. His jujutsu is very special. It was when Gojo Satoru and Shayuji fought. The two of them didn't realize that he was so comprehensive. They discovered that he could hit critically. He didn't expect that Ming would completely understand his jujutsu in the current fight. To be honest, he was very curious about this senior. You were right, Ming senpai, this is my jujutsu 10-stroke curse, Nanami Kento admitted. Senior, you are so powerful. My jujutsu is a self-repairing spell. Haibara admired him. Okay, in that case I need to gain some strength, Ming said calmly. After saying that, Ming's speed suddenly increased. Then he quickly came to Nanami and punched him. Nanami blocked the blow with a knife, but it flew backwards. Ming didn't stop and came to Haiyuan Shang's side again, and Haiyuan Shang's speed suddenly increased. But it was still too slow in Ming's eyes, so Ming punched out. Haihara Shang flew out instantly. Then Ming's figure disappeared from the place. Unparalleled strange power, Ming said as a huge amount of magic power erupted from his body. Then he kicked the ground, and a terrifying force spread around, and the two of them were blown away by the air waves. Okay, stop it, Yaga Masamiki said. Yaga Masamiki began to comment on the two people's taijutsu. The two of them humbly accepted Yaga Masamiki's comments. Yaga Masamiki looked at the two of them and nodded. Although their strength was far inferior to that of Ming and others, fortunately, the two of them had much better personalities than Ming and the others, so he didn't need to worry about them. Yaga Masamiki did not stop after finishing the review. Ming looked at the new juniors and planned to treat the two of them to a meal, which was considered a welcome way for a senior. During the meal, after talking, everyone quickly became familiar with each other, and Ming also understood their personalities. And these two juniors are also very satisfied and have pretty good personalities. The reason why I don't remember Nanami Kento is because Ming has almost forgotten it, and Nanami's image is really not that similar to the original. Seniors, you are all so powerful. When can I be as powerful as your seniors? Haihara Shang, who was full of energy, said with admiration. Ha ha ha, you can work hard then. Maya did not dampen Haibara's enthusiasm, while Nanami Kento did not say a word, but the etiquette was in place. Little Nanami, you are really introverted, Gojo Satoru said. Gojo Satoru senpai, please don't say that, I'm not introverted, and don't use small letters when you call me, Nanami Kento said. Why, you can scream even if you're not aware of it, Gojo Satoru said unhappily. Because Ming senpai is different from you, Nanami Kento said sternly. Ha ha ha, Satoru, you are hated, but having said that, Satoru's character is really hard to be liked, Ming mocked. That's right, Shayuji said after taking a sip of water. Gojo Satoru snorted coldly, if you want to say it's bad, Ming is worse than me, J. Satoru, you guy, don't talk nonsense in front of your juniors, you will insult my image. Image, when it comes to image, how can you say I'm more handsome? Gojo Satoru said scornfully, taking off his sunglasses. Idiot, I understand the first point. Image does not necessarily mean appearance. No matter how you look at the second point, I'm more handsome. I'm just white-haired. Nowadays, black hair is the mainstream that everyone appreciates, right? Said Ming calmly said. Ah, that's true, Shayuji touched his chin and said. There were only 3 people present with black hair, not to mention, with good Uchiha genes, Shayuji had black hair, and Haibara also had black hair. Nanami has yellow hair, Gojo Satoru has white hair, and Shoko has brown hair. Hey, you two guys, Nanami's yellow hair is weirder, isn't it? Gojo Satoru looked at the 2 people targeting him, and immediately pointed the finger at Nanami. Nanami looked confused. It was obvious that the seniors were arguing about why they brought him along. TCH, woo, let's not talk about your white hair, just your white eyelashes. Who in the normal world would look like this? Ming said sadly. This is called standing out from the crowd, you know, and what's wrong with the white hair? My white hair is different from those of those old men, Gojo Satoru defended. Besides, aren't Jay's buns and bangs weird? Why do you keep your hair so long? It's longer than Shoko. Ha 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 ha, Ming laughed. He, like Gojo Satoru, didn't appreciate Shayuji's taste to a certain extent. The bloomers and buns were the points of complaint between the two of them every time. And because of his height, wearing bloomers made Shayuji look very short. Of course, Shayuji is not shorter than 1.84 meters in height, but he is much shorter than Gojo Satoru, who is nearly 1.9 meters tall, and Ming Zheng, who is 1.93 meters tall. Idiot Satoru, why are you bringing this guy here? Your grandpa-style sunglasses, how do you have the right to laugh at me? And Ming, you idiot with a paralyzed face, and the table tennis outfit, do you know what fashion is? Shayuji said with an angry look. Hey, I've been saying it for so many years, that's a round fan, an ancestral emblem, you know nothing, Jia. Ming looked at Xiaoyuji with an angry look. My sunglasses are obviously the latest model, what kind of grandpa style? Gojo Satoru said dissatisfied, and then the three of them stood up. The three of them looked at each other unhappily and started arguing. Ming, idiot Jia, I must teach you a lesson. I want to see who is teaching whom, Wu, Xiaoyuji said unconvinced. To deal with two people, you are too arrogant, Wu. Come on together. In a one-on-two situation, I have the advantage, Ming said with a sneer. You really deserve a beating. Gojo Satoru looked at Ming angrily. Yeah, I can handle you two just fine, Xiaoyuji continued Gojo Satoru's words. If you dare to talk to me like this, don't forget who wins the most. Ming said. The two of them stopped talking for a moment, like this every time. You say this kind of thing every time, go out and have a fight. The three people who watched the quarrel even got into a fight. Three seniors, Haihara Shang said nervously as he looked at the three seniors. It's okay. Shoko stopped Haihara Yu who was trying to break up the fight. Shoko-senpai, it's not good for them to be like this, Haihara Yu said. It's okay, you just get used to this kind of thing. It happens every time. The way they get along is different from normal people. Shoko was also not surprised. Then can we go and take a look, Shoko-senpai? Haihara Yuo did not dissuade him after hearing Shoko's words, but said with excitement. Well, it's better not to do it. It's very dangerous and you may die if you're not careful. Shoko looked scared. Hearing this, Hayu and Shang became even more excited. Nanami also became interested. Although they didn't get along for a long time, he knew that the three of them were monsters. He also wanted to see a battle between monsters. Chapter 41. Gojo Satoru, Xiaoyuji, and Ming came to the training ground. Shoko and Nanami Haibara hid in the distance to watch this unprecedented decisive battle. No trash talk this time. The three of them stood together. Ming took the lead and hit Xiaoyuji. Xiaoyuji had already expected it and summoned the cursed spirit to block Ming's blow. Then he jumped up high and summoned the flying cursed spirit. Then he stood up. Fly high on cursed spirit. And Gojo Satoru attacked Ming from the beginning. After all, Ming cannot become insubstantial only when attacking. Ming Yi was already prepared. I saw Susanoo's huge hand, instantly blocking Gojo Satoru's blow. Seeing this, Gojo Satoru immediately fired a black flash with terrifying power. The black flash struck with a fist wind, and the Susanoo instantly shattered in the first stage. Gojo Satoru's power has not been eliminated yet. But it was no surprise that he passed through the underworld. Ming's eyes condensed, and a space vortex emerged from Gojo. Gojo Satoru did not look back, and the figure disappeared instantly as he held his hands. The disappeared Gojo Satoru instantly appeared above Xiaoyuji. Kang, the terrifying gravity attracted Xiaoyuji. Xiaoyuji did not dodge and came to Gojo Satoru. The cursed spirit appeared instantly and began to attack Gojo Satoru. He naturally knew that he could not hurt Gojo Satoru. When Gojo Satoru was blocked from sight, Xiaoyuji summoned the Rainbow Dragon and escaped from Gojo Satoru's Kang. Xiaoyuji then summoned a first-level cursed spirit. The cursed spirit released a terrifying flame from its mouth and struck Ming. The flames instantly engulfed Ming. A drop of blood and tears was left in the corner of Ming's eyes, and then a terrifying black flame swallowed up the orange flame in an instant. The flame was like fuel, swallowing up the black Amaterasu. Xiaoyuji was about to order cursed spirit to cancel the output, but the black flame was too quick. Xiaoyuji could only jump to the next cursed spirit, and the black flame instantly burned the cursed spirit to ashes. The remaining curse power of the cursed spirit was also burned, as if it had never existed. So strong, Senior Xiaoyuji. Haiyuan looked at Xiaoyuji with admiration. Monsters can actually summon cursed spirits of that level, and there are more than one, and there are obviously stronger ones. Nanami Kento said. Senior Ming is also super strong. What is that black flame? Is it Senior Ming's technique? Haihara Shang looked at Amaterasu used by Ming. No, it's Amaterasu, one of Ming's abilities. Let me tell you something. If you two go on a mission with Ming, remember to stay away if he uses this ability. Because this flame cannot be extinguished, Shoko said, while Haihara Yu and Nanami looked solemn. Returning to the battlefield, Ming looked angry as he looked at Yuki, who was flying high into the sky again. Wasn't this bullying him? Although Susanoo in the perfect form could give it, it was banned. Yuki, who was flying in the air, ignored him because Gojo Satoru had already solved the 2 first-level cursed spirits. Gojo Satoru looked at Yuki and attacked. Yuki did not dare to confront Gojo Satoru head-on. Then he waved his hand and many flying cursed spirits appeared. In an instant, some low-level cursed spirits appeared in the entire sky. That's too much. Senior Yu is so handsome. Haihara Shang looked surprised, with admiration flashing in his eyes. Gojo Satoru didn't panic even after losing his target. The technique is reversed, Kang. A terrifying gravitational force instantly attracted the cursed spirit to the center of the sky, and the cursed spirit all over the sky was instantly cleared away. Gojo Satoru, is this guy a monster? Can he kill all the cursed spirits in an instant? Nanami Kento thought to himself. When Gojo Satoru cast Ao, Ming instantly cast Susanoo's human form, and a Magu bow appeared. Then Amaterasu condensed into an arrow and launched it towards Gojo Satoru and Yuki. But the 2 of them had already noticed it and escaped. Gojo Satoru raised his hand and hit Amaterasu towards Yuki. Yuki controlled cursed spirit to avoid. You can't do it either, Ming, Yuki said, looking at Ming on the ground. Yeah, after all, someone can't fly. Gojo Satoru started to mock when he saw this. You 2 guys are so hateful, Ming said with an ugly look on his face. He was wondering whether to use Susanoo. The only thing that could be useful to Gojo Satoru was Kamui. But Gojo Satoru is too fast, Yuki's flying movements are too flexible, and his body shape cannot be locked at all. Seeing the smiles on the 2 men's faces, Ming made an instant decision. Then Ming's spell power was consumed quickly, and soon the half-giant next to Ming put on a suit of armor. And an extra hand. Hachiban Magatama, a high-speed rotating Magatama appeared in the giant's hand. 4 appear on each hand. Since you know how to hide, okay, then I will cover you with firepower. Ming had a crazy smile on his face. Seeing the giant's 4 hands throwing Magatama towards the 2 of them like afterimages, both of them felt the terrifying energy from the Magatama, but this guy was so crazy that he fired so many Magatama, even though Gojo Satoru knew that these attacks could not the attack hit him, but he was also a little numb. Then he looked at Yuki with sympathy. Yuki also shed a drop of cold sweat. The corners of his mouth twitched. This attack is so terrifying. This guy can actually do it to this extent. Back when I was still in Kaleidoscope, that guy Ming would only take out a quasi-special level cursed spirit with 2 shots every time. Hey, Eternal Kaleidoscope is too unreasonable. You guys didn't dare to play like this back then. Yuki said with a headache on his face. Although Yuki's scalp was numb, he was not idle. He summoned 2 defensive quasi-specials with a curse from the corner of his mouth, and then transferred the spell power to Cursed Spirit. Although Ming's attacks were very strong, they were scattered in order to block Yuki's route. Although the 2 cursed spirits blocked it, it was obvious that the 2 cursed spirits were no longer capable of fighting. Yuki instantly retracted the 2 curses. Asshole, are you crazy? Yuki roared. God's power. Then the dark eyes condensed and a terrifying space force appeared, instantly locking Gojo Satoru. While Gojo Satoru was covered in cold sweat, he was too fascinated by the excitement just now. But he was still able to escape Ming's attack in an instant. TCH, I've guessed it a long time ago, Kamui Shuriken, said Ming's Susanoo with 2 shurikens appearing in his hand. Shooting towards Gojo Satoru. Obscured by the smoke, Gojo Satoru did not react immediately. Gojo Satoru's hair stood on end. He felt danger like never before. His instinct told him to avoid, and he dodged a blow on one side of his body. Ow! Looked at the second shuriken, and Gojo Satoru used his fingers to use, ow, to change the trajectory of the shuriken. Gojo Satoru looked back at the flying shuriken. The shuriken flew right onto Yuki's cursed spirit. The cursed spirit's body began to twist at the moment of contact, and finally the body was twisted by the power of space. Yuki and Gojo Satoru looked at Ming with angry faces and then roared at the same time. You idiot, Ming, you know, if I hadn't reacted quickly, I would have been killed by you, Gojo Satoru said angrily. You idiot, you almost killed me, you know. Yuki roared angrily. And Ming also knew that he had gone too far, so he scratched his head in embarrassment and said with a smile, "Ha ha ha, after all, the opponents are Jia and Wu, it's no problem." The three of them originally wanted to compete for fun. Shayuji and Gojo Satoru didn't expect this fool to suddenly have a seizure. In fact, it's not Ming's fault for this. Except for the illusion technique, his pupil skills are all capable of killing with one hit. Illusion. Don't be ridiculous. Gojo Satoru is immune, Shayuji doesn't even watch it. Using his copied abilities, the two of them would have to fight. And with Susanoo banned from completing his form, his abilities are too unsuitable for sparring. Okay, don't worry about it. You all know that my abilities are like this. I can't help it. I can't just stand here and use my power to avoid it, Ming said embarrassedly. The two of them snorted at the same time, not wanting to talk to this fool. Satoru, I'll cover this month's desserts. Jay, can I transcribe the illusion for you? Ming said, and he knew there was nothing he could do. Plus a first-class cursed tool. 2 months. Okay, Ming gritted his teeth and said, after all, it was his fault. Level 1 cursed tool is very rare, but there are quite a few of them. The cursed tool that Shayuji wanted was also for Haihara Shang, and Nanami already had the cursed tool. That's pretty much it. Seeing that Ming agreed, the two of them smiled as if their conspiracy had succeeded. Seeing that the battle was over, Shoko and the other three also rushed over. Wow, the three seniors are really super strong, Haihara Shang said with admiration. Nanami was also very surprised, especially Ming. They had heard it just now, and they didn't expect Ming to be so strong. Of course, it's hard for him to judge which of the three is stronger, but he prefers Ming. Everyone returned to where they lived amid Wei Yuan's praise. The next day, several second graders and first graders from Jujutsu High School were on the playground. Yaga Masamiki is speaking. At this moment, a child's voice sounded. Hello, who are you here, Uchiha Mei? A boy said sarcastically. Oh, who are you, kid? Gojo Satoru came to the child in an instant and looked at the boy curiously. Ah, who are you? The boy said expressionlessly. Gojo Satoru was about to speak. Are you looking for me? Little devil. Ming came to the little boy and asked curiously. Hello, master, Xiaonan said a little hard to say. Nani? Everyone stared at Ming with wide eyes. It turns out that senior Ming already has a girlfriend, Haiyuanshang asked. Just as he was about to continue saying something, Nanami stopped him immediately. Ming, on the other hand, looked surprised and confused. Ah, you kid, you must have come to the wrong place, Ming explained with a confused look on his face. Everyone looked at Ming. There may be many people named Ming in the whole neon world, but there is only one surname Uchiha. You can't be wrong, Todo Aoi said with certainty, and then looked at this master, and saw nothing except that he was handsome. What's going on? Ming, you guy, why don't you tell me and Wu about these things? Shayuji put his hand on Ming's shoulder and said with a smile. Yeah, you're really not interesting enough, Gojo Satoru said dissatisfied. Go away, do you think I'm confused? Mingwu said, rolling his eyes. And Shoko looked at Ming a little nervously. Who asked you to come? Ming frowned and looked at the little boy. Although the little boy didn't have much in his body, he did. My teacher, 99 Yuki, Todo Aoi said. 99. Yuki, Gojo Satoru and Shayuji each said one sentence, and then looked at Ming with ambiguous eyes. They only knew that the person next to them during their holiday in Hades was none other than Yuki Kuju. Hey, you guy, you can do that, Gojo Satoru said with a wicked smile. Shayuji also had a malicious smile. Shut up, that woman, Ming clenched his fists. He took out his cell phone and dialed Yuki Kuju. Hey, honey, idiot, please speak to me. Ming had a dark look on his face, while Shoko and the others listened with their ears raised. Shoko secretly clenched her fists. I cursed in my heart, shameless. Gojo Satoru and the other two said with emotion, my dear ones are all here. Okay, what's going on? Juju Yuki stopped joking. That kid, by the way, kid, what's your name? Ming looked at Todo Aoi with a dark look on his face. Todo Aoi, what, you said your name is Todo Aoi? Ming exclaimed, even though I have almost forgotten the original work after so many years, I am still deeply impressed by this guy. Yes, Todo always said calmly. Ming's eye could not have imagined that the handsome young man in front of him would turn into that greasy burly man in the future. Sure enough, people cannot be judged by their appearance. Hurry up and explain to me what's going on. Ming immediately adjusted his state. Oh, the kid I accidentally discovered as a talent that can be made. Then why, let him find me, and don't let that brat scream. Ming roared. Oh, I have something very important to do now, so please help me take care of it, my dear, Yuki Kuju said. Shut up, you are calling me random names, I will send this brat over to you. Ming had a dark look on his face. Okay, then I'll leave this kid to you. Hee, don't worry, I'll go back in a while. Yuki Juju said and hung up the phone. This troublesome woman, Ming Wuyu said. Then his eyes turned to Todo Aoi. Kid, my name is Todo Aoi. Okay, little friend Todo, how about this? You can train with these two brothers from now on. If you don't understand anything, just ask me, Ming said helplessly. No, they don't look very strong. Todo Aoi looked sultry. Oh, this kid is so arrogant. Gojo Satoru. Don't call me kid, uncle. Oops, I'm angry. Gojo Satoru started teasing Todo Aoi. Todo Aoi, on the other hand, had an angry look on his face. Despite his young age, he still had some discernment. He could feel that these people in front of him were very strong. 3 of them, including his master, had similar pressure to him from her irresponsible teacher, that kind of aura of a strong person. Although Nanami and others are very strong, he does not recognize them. And Todo Aoi also learned that there is only one special level in this world for the time being, and that is his teacher, but there are actually 3 teachers in this high school who are no weaker than him. Forget it, Ming Yi is the master, after all, but the other 2 are also very powerful. So now Todo Aoi wants to stay, to be precise, he has been yearning for this world since he last learned about it from Kuju Yuki. During this period, Nanami and others were trained by Satoru and Mei Lai, and Gojo Satoru especially liked to tease Todo Aoi, so Gojo Satoru always took the child with him. And Todo Aoi during this period also stimulated Nanami and Haibara Yu. Todo Aoi is worthy of being the person that Yuki Kuju likes. Both in terms of talent and perseverance, he is very good. He can be regarded as a little genius. Although it cannot be compared with the 3 people of Ming Dynasty, it is still a material that can be made. Sometimes Yaga Masamiki will even bring Todo Aoi when giving lectures to Nanami and others. 2 months later, inside the classroom of Jujutsu High School at this time, Gojo Satoru and others are all sitting in the classroom. This time Yaga is standing on the podium issuing tasks to everyone. Shoko, on the other hand, was lying on the table with a listless expression. This time there is a 2-person mission. The first one is that the quasi-special cursed spirit appears. Shayuji and Gojo Satoru, you 2 will perform the mission. The second mission requires you to take the first grade with you. Yaga Masamiki said. Good, no problem. 3 people sounded at the same time, but they were all obviously in low spirits. These 3 people are the 3 of them. After all, this mission is not difficult at all for them. Yaga Masamiki nodded. At first he would emphasize to the 3 of them to be careful, but he knew it was not necessary, so he didn't say anything more. The one who behaved differently from the others was the first-year Yu Haihara, who looked like he had been beaten to death, while Nanami looked calm. Then everyone was ready to set out to perform the mission. Why? Sensei asked Ming to lead the first grade. Gojo Satoru said with a look of displeasure. Needless to say, of course Wu is stronger, Ming Yi said calmly. What, you guy, no matter what, I am stronger, Gojo Satoru said unhappily. I can break your infinity, but can you break my divine power? Ming said with disdain. You guy, how do you know I can't break the law? Gojo Satoru gritted his teeth and said angrily. Okay, stop arguing, you 2. Wu, Ming's ability is the most suitable for this mission. Sha Yuji persuaded. Gojo Satoru didn't say that he had been learning the reversal technique since he almost hurt Ming last time. After all, Ming was right. He couldn't break the deformation of Kamui, although Ming would completely materialize when he attacked, but don't forget to watch Ming and Susanoo. Moreover, Ming's Sharingan can also predict the opponent's movements, so it is difficult to break the void, so he has always wanted to learn to reverse the technique, so that the power of the gods will be useless in front of him. The two of them did not quarrel after being reconciled by Shayuji. They all went to their own mission locations. About half a day later, Ming brought Nanami to see people off to the mission location. Born from darkness, darkness to darkness, filthy residuals, wipe them all out. Ming began to arrange the tent. Okay, I'll leave the rest to you two, he said and turned to leave. Wait, Senior Ming, are you with us? Haiyuan Shang said. Of course not together, it's just that you don't need me at the level of level 2 cursed spirit, and this is also the assessment arranged by Yaga-sensei for you. He said without stopping and walked outside the tent. Of course, Ming was not too far away. At this time, he was opening his Sharingan in the car outside and looking at the situation inside. After the words were divided, Nanami Kento and Haibara Yu walked inside. At this time, some disgusting cursed spirits had appeared in front of them. Nanami Kento reacted instantly, took out his cursed tool, and rushed towards the ugly cursed spirit of those monsters. The moment he approached the cursed spirit, Nanami jumped up instantly. Then the sword flashes, and the energy blood explodes instantly, and then disappears on the ground. Hey, Nana Ming, leave one for me, Haiyuan Shang said dissatisfied. Nanami gave Haihara Yu a cold look, then ignored him and continued walking inside. Ha ha ha, these two people are really a good combination, but this kid Haiyuan can't do this, he will die. Ming looked at the two people laughing outside, and then said Haiyuan Shang. Although he, Gojo Satoru and others were worse than Haibara when performing their missions, that was because the enemies were too weak, so weak that they could destroy them with just a lift of their fingers. But Haihara Shang is different. This kind of person will die very early. Of course, Nanami Kento's performance made Ming very satisfied. He discovered the cursed spirit the moment it appeared, or even before it appeared. This kind of person is a very reliable person at any time. At this time, Nanami Kento has come to the rightful owner, and neither of them is afraid of the cursed spirit for the first time. The two of them cooperated quite well, and even faced the second-level cursed spirit, they were still able to handle it with ease. But something happened next that made Ming frown. Haihara Yu, a very nervous guy, was distracted talking to Nanami Kento at this critical moment. Fortunately, Nanami Kento reacted quickly and blocked the cursed spirit's attack for Haihara Yuo. Haihara Yuan reacted quickly. He immediately jumped up and then punched cursed spirit with all his strength. Cursed spirit roared in pain. And Nanami is holding a knife now. Narrowing his eyes slightly, the cursed spirit in front of him turned into a ruler in Nanami's eyes. The 10-stroke curse was then slashed out together. A terrifying force burst out instantly, and Haihara Yuan also transformed the curse into power and punched with all his strength. Cursed spirit receives a powerful attack. Exploded instantly. The cursed spirit was solved, and after a while the two came out of the tent. Haiyuan Shang looked at Ming outside and waved his hands happily. Ming nodded expressionlessly in response to the two of them. The performance this time really exceeded my expectations, especially Nanami's good performance, Ming praised without hesitation. As for Haiyuan's very bad performance, to be precise, it made me very angry. If you hadn't killed that cursed spirit, I would have asked Yaga-sensei to expel you from school when I went back, Ming said gloomily. Hearing this, Haihara Shang's face turned pale, and he stood there and put away the smile on his face. I'm sorry, Senior, Haihara Shang said seriously, apologetic flashing in his eyes. Looking at Haiyuan Shang with this attitude, Ming knew that his words might be a bit harsh. You don't need to apologize to me. The one you want to apologize to is Nanami. You were distracted when you pulled out the cursed spirit. Even if you were distracted, you are still disturbing Nanami. Ming said calmly. He also knew that what he just said was a little bit. It's heavy. I'm sorry, Nana Ming, I'm sorry, Senior Ming failed to live up to your expectations. Wei Yuan, I am not targeting you. You must know that whether it is a level 1 cursed spirit or a level 4 cursed spirit, you will die if you are distracted while performing a mission. Don't think I am alarmist, those cursed spirits or I won't be polite to you, Ming said. Hearing that Ming Dao, Haiyuan Shang felt even more guilty. He knew that Ming was doing it for his own good. Haiyuan, I don't know why you want to be a magician, but no matter what the purpose, remember, people only have meaning if they are alive, so this time as a senior, I want to tell you, no matter what you face, in this situation, save your own life, even if there are ordinary people standing behind you. Ming said calmly. It's senior. The two knew that Ming was doing it for their own good. Okay, no need to be serious, but overall your performance is very good. Keep working hard. Next time Satoru, Gia, and I will recommend you to become level 2 magicians. Really, senior? Hyuanshang said excitedly. Yes, but the three of us will be very strict, definitely stricter than the normal rating, Ming said with a smile. Yes, I will definitely work hard. Hyuanshang returned to the same lucky look. Really, I just came back and came on another mission. Did this old guy sensei teacher think of me as something? A coolie, or a nanny? Gojo Satoru said with a look of displeasure. Okay, I'm obviously here to save your old sweetheart, why are you complaining? Shayuji said weakly, rolling his eyes. Shut up, Mr. Gia realized that you and that guy Ming are bad learners. Gojo Satoru retorted. Woo, I told you a long time ago, don't use I when calling yourself. Shayuji said seriously. Gojo Satoru was even more unhappy. Especially in front of elders, you have to use the word, junior. Even if you don't use it, you should at least use I, Shayuji said lightly. It's really troublesome. Gojo Satoru curled his lips. Shayuji looked at Gojo Satoru seriously. Well, old, I know, why are you acting like an old lady, Jay? Gojo Satoru said angrily. On the other side, a beautiful woman dressed as a witch was following a tall white-haired woman into a dilapidated hole with a nervous look on her face. Walking inside, the two of them moved separately. Utahime looked nervous, fearing that he would suddenly encounter the cursed spirit. After a while, the two met on the second floor, and they began to talk and found out that this was the spell of cursed spirit. On the other side, Ming has brought Nanami and others back to the high school. The three of them reported the task to Yaga Masamiki. As an invigilator, Ming spoke highly of both of them. Yaga Masamiki didn't say anything more and let the two go back, while Mei was left behind. What, teacher? Utime has a mission, but I'm not worried about it, so I let Satoru and Shoko go there, but I'm really worried about Satoru and Jay. You go and take a look, Yaga Masamiki said. It can't be so. Has Wu put down the account? Although Ming was asking, his tone was full of affirmation. Yaga Masamiki had a dark look on his face and said nothing. Hey, Ming sighed. Although Ming told Gojo Satoru last time that not letting go of accounts was very social. Gojo Satoru listened, but it was of no use. He would not put accounts where there were no people, which led to let ordinary people think it is some kind of natural disaster or miracle, which will cause the government to wipe their butt every time. Don't worry, Sansai, Ming said, and then his figure began to twist. On the other side, Gojo Satoru has already started to act, and a terrifying gravitational force instantly destroys the surrounding area. The abandoned building in front of him instantly turned into ruins. I'm here to save you. Utahime. Gojo Satoru stood on a tree with a smile, then looked at Utahime under the stone and said lightly, Are you crying? I'm not crying, Utahime roared instantly. Thank you very much, the white-haired woman said at this time. Miss Mei, you won't cry, right? You are so strong, Gojo Satoru said, looking at Mei. Gojo Satoru also met Mei during the last mission with Shayuji, and knew that this woman was quite strong. He also has a name similar to that of his best friend, so his words are not so damaging. Yes, they are. Gojo, I don't need your help, Utahime pointed angrily at Gojo Satoru and said as soon as he finished speaking. A huge cursed spirit appears behind Utahime. Sajuluo Wu, it's not good for you to bully the weak like this, isn't it? Shayuji walked out of the shadows. How can an idiot bully a strong person? Gojo Satoru said matter-of-factly. Senior Utahime, are you okay? Just when Utahime was about to break out, a voice sounded. Shoko, Utahime quickly ran to Shoko, hugged Shoko and said, Shoko, you must not be like those two people. Don't worry, I won't become such a scumbag, Shoko comforted. Utamem, the road you walk on will collapse. Gojo Satoru said with a wicked smile. Shut up. At this time, both of their styles changed. As expected, the barrier of this cursed spirit has a time error. Although it is rare, it does happen. Gojo Satoru explained while looking at the state of the two people. Speaking of which, where are the accounts, eh? Then Mei looked around and wondered when the accounts had been arranged. Gojo Satoru and Shayuji were stunned for a moment. You should know that this location is very close to the city center, but they saw that tents had been set up around them. They looked to ask Shoko. Shoko shook his head, and just then, he's here. Gojo Satoru felt the space fluctuation and looked back. With a smile on his lips, Shayuji also smiled when he heard this. It's really troublesome. Are you two idiots? You ask me to wipe your butts every time. A voice sounded above them. At this time, a twisted figure appeared above. Utahime and others all looked back at Ming, who suddenly appeared. It's really slow, Ming, Gojo Satoru said with a smile on his face. At this time Ming slowly fell to the ground. This time it's Satoru. Ming looked at Gojo Satoru speechlessly. TCH, it doesn't matter, there's no one around here. Gojo Satoru curled his lips. Asshole, you guy, can you please listen to me? Ming looked at the indifferent Gojo Satoru and said angrily. If it weren't for this unreliable, he wouldn't have come here. HMPH, Gojo Satoru snorted and stopped talking. You are Uchiha Ming, hello. Mei looked at Ming politely. A bit convoluted. Ming looked at Mei in surprise, then looked at Gojo Satoru, frowning. Ming. At this time, Shoko pushed Ming from the side. After all, it was really rude for Mei to look at people like this. Oh, yes, it's me. Hello, Ming said lightly, and his attitude towards other people was still relatively friendly. This made Gojo Satoru and Shayuji very curious. They must know that Ming is very cold to people they just met. After comparing their names, Gojo Satoru instantly made up the picture in his mind. Woo, is this your sister? Ming suddenly asked. Huh, what are you talking about? Gojo Satoru said with a look of displeasure, how could such a weak person be his sister? Mei smiled innocently. Ming looked surprised at the reaction of the two people. How is that possible? You have water in your head, Gojo Satoru said in disgust. Isn't it? White hair. This is the first time I've seen this kind of premature hair color besides you. I think it's normal, Ming said with a speechless expression. After hearing this, everyone realized that the hair color was really similar. But everyone was speechless and said, forget it in front of Gojo Satoru, why should you say it in front of this lady? Asshole, you two have the same name, Gojo Satoru said angrily. On the other hand, Mei had a dark look on her face. No matter how well educated she was, she wouldn't be happy if someone called her hair color or her name. Ming, Shayuji reminded from the side. And Ming Yi instantly realized something was wrong. Then, he suddenly slapped Gojo Satoru on the back of the head. What are you doing, Ming? Gojo Satoru said unhappily, covering the back of his head. Apologize, it's too rude of you to discuss other people's names, Ming Yi said sternly. Sorry, you're so rude, Woo, Ming Yi said sternly. Gojo Satoru was very upset at this time and didn't apologize, and he didn't say it first. And he wouldn't apologize even if he said it first. Miss, I'm really sorry. I apologize to you on Woo's behalf, but I'm still very curious about this lady's name. Ming said apologetically. After all, he was wrong in this matter, and he couldn't be rigid. Face. But he was also curious about the name of this tall beauty. It's okay, my name is Mei, Uchiha Mei's Mei. Mei looked at the communication between Gojo Satoru and Mei without any entanglement. After all, they both apologized, and he didn't let it go. In fact, he was still very those who know Ming, after all, he has a good relationship with Kusakabe. Huh, I heard Ming's last words. After saying this, Ming had a cold sweat on his face, and then he was a little surprised. Mei, he had some impressions of this woman. It was a memory from a previous life, but he could no longer remember it clearly. Miss Mei's name is really good, it's the nicest name I've ever heard, Ming praised with a smile on her face. Everyone was speechless when they heard this. This man is so shameless. Mei had a smile on her face, she thought Ming was very interesting. Yes, I also think Miss Mei's hair color is very tasteful. At this time, a voice praised her. You guys, are you so shameless? Sajuluo Wu, Ming said with disdain. Each other, Gojo Satoru said nonchalantly. Then Gojo Satoru and Ming got into an argument here. After arguing for a while, the two of them were pulled away by Shayuji. "Tch, I'll let you go this time in front of Miss Mei Mei," Ming said unhappily. Gojo Satoru snorted. "Miss Mei Mei, you should go back and explain the mission, and do we also get a share of the money for this help?" Ming looked at Mei Mei and said. After hearing this, Utahime broke out in a cold sweat, and then became a little curious. This person named Ming must be a miser. Well, if it were someone else, it wouldn't be true. After all, I don't have the habit of giving money to others, but since it's you, it's okay. Mei Mei said with a smile in her eyes, appreciation and curiosity flashing in her eyes. "Thank you so much, Miss Mei Mei. I don't need to give the money to the Wu family. After all, the eldest son of the Gojo family is not short of money, unlike ordinary people like us," Ming said. "Okay, Mr. Ming is an interesting person." Mei Mei smiled softly. The group chatted for a while without saying much. Ming and Mei Mei exchanged their contact information and left. Gojo Satoru and others did not stop and walked towards the high school. Back at the high school, no surprise, Gojo Satoru was scolded for not setting up the tent. After the scolding, the four of them went to the basketball hall to play. Gojo Satoru was still unhappy, but he didn't say anything more. Just as the three of them were passing the boring time, Yaga Masamiki suddenly came over again. "The following is the latest mission for the three of you," Yaga Masamiki said. The three of them were speechless. "Why are you making such an expression?" Yaga Masamiki asked with a puzzled look on his face. It was clear that the three of them always said they were bored and now they were on a mission. "No," the three of them denied at the same time. Seeing the expressions of the three people, Yaga Masamiki ignored them and then led the three people to the classroom. Shoko returned to the laboratory to complete his research because of something. "To be honest, I don't want you to participate in this mission," Yaga Masamiki said. "Oh, teacher, do you think the three of us can't complete this mission?" Ming suddenly said with interest. "No, that's not what I meant. It's just that this mission is of great importance," Yaga Masamiki said. "Oh, then Sansai, why are the three of us going?" Ming asked curiously. "Master Tianyuan personally specified it," Yaga Masamiki said helplessly, and then said, "There are two tasks. The astral body, that is, the person who is suitable for Master Tianyuan. You must personally protect her safety and kill her at the critical moment." "Got her. Protect and kill that brat?" Gojo Satoru asked in confusion. "That's right," Yaga Masamiki replied as he opened the classroom door. "Sure enough, he is already suffering from senile dementia," Gojo Satoru whispered to the two people behind him. "Is it spring after all?" Shayuji said calmly. "I heard that Sansai was going to take over as the principal. I was so happy that I couldn't be more joking," Ming said calmly. "It's up to me whether you want to treat it as a joke or not," Yaga Masamiki said calmly, ignoring the three people's teasing. "Is Master Tianyuan's technique about to be initialized?" Shayuji walked into the classroom, ignoring Yaga Masamiki's dissatisfied look. What do you mean?" Apparently Gojo Satoru didn't know this time. Ming Zi stood behind and said nothing. After all, he knew a little about Tianyuan. Although Master Tianyuan's technique is an immortality technique, it does not mean immortality. If it is aging, it will not be a problem. However, when aging exceeds a certain level, the technique will automatically build the body. Thus, it can evolve and become a higher level existence, Yaga Masamiki said seriously. "Isn't that very good, very handsome?" Gojo Satoru said lazily. "Although this is the case, there is also a drawback, that is, the direction of evolution is unknown during evolution. That old woman Tianyuan, if she evolves well, there is nothing wrong with her, but if she evolves in the wrong direction, she may become our enemy," Ming explained. "Not only that, the Jujutsu world and even the entire Neon rely on Master Tianyuan. Once something goes wrong with him, it will become very difficult. It will be a disaster for the entire Neon," Shayuji added. "So, every 500 years, the old woman has to assimilate with a special person. Although it is said that the actual principle is to occupy someone else's body and return the spell to its original point to prevent evolution," Ming said calmly. "Ming, please be more respectful to Lord Tianyuan," Shayuji said, stroking his forehead. I don't want it. That kind of person is murdering other people's lives anyway. Although other people's lives don't matter to me, sacrificing the life of a girl for no reason is unacceptable to an individual. Ming said calmly, then lay down on the chair behind him and said calmly, immortality technique. I don't think immortality. After all, my Amaterasu can burn even the technique. Ming, Yaga Masamiki said seriously. Okay, I know, Ming said with an indifferent expression. I see. It would be fine if it turned into mechanical Greymon, but it would be terrible if it evolved into a mechanical Greymon. Gojo Satoru said suddenly. Everyone looked at Gojo Satoru speechless. Ha ha ha, that's okay to understand, but my Sharingan can control zombie Greymon, Ming laughed. Ming, don't disrespect Lord Tianyuan like this anymore. Yaga Masamiki didn't blame Ming, but still asked Ming to pay attention. Ming curled his lips and said nothing. When the three heard about the mission, they left the classroom without saying much. On the street, the three of them were walking on the street. Out of instinct, the two of them were walking behind them as if they were about 15 or 6 meters away. Their walking posture was really too rough. After just now, Yaga Masamiki told the three people that they were no longer some hostile forces. Then the three of us left the classroom and headed to the mission location. Speaking of which, I can understand curse groups, behavior, but why did Penxing cult kill imps? Gojo Satoru raised his head and drank his drink. Because he worships the pure Lord Tianyuan and will not allow unnecessary existence to tarnish Lord Tianyuan. Sha Yuji explained. It's really troublesome. Let's just eliminate those groups directly. Gojo Satoru said. Although it is a good idea for one person, it is more troublesome to find someone. Sha Yuji explained. I think, just put the little girl in the divine space, so no one can hurt her. Ming said calmly. That's a good idea, Gojo Satoru said. No, this mission requires us to try our best to fulfill all her wishes before assimilating, Sha Yuji said. Those old guys, and that old woman from Tianyuan, really, they did such shameless things and still acted like this. Ming said with disdain. Okay, don't complain, it's not that difficult anyway, just be a little satisfied. Let's see what the person involved says, Sha Yuji said. The time has come when everyone is talking about it. The three of them distributed the lineup, and finally decided that Sha Yuji should go to see the person involved. After all, one of them had a paralyzed face and the other was evil. If two people went together, they would not be regarded as bad people, so they had to let the seemingly gentle Sha Yuji go. But several people were still in contact on the phone during the process. Sha Yuji was using the phone to analyze the battle situation with the two of them. Although there were only 3 people who didn't pay much attention, they still had to make arrangements. At this time, Sha Yuji was already sitting in the elevator and came to the floor where the astral body was located. When he was about to open the door, a terrifying explosion came from the mobile phone. Gojo Satoru and Ming looked at the floor behind them that was destroyed by the explosion, and they knew it was the room where Sha Yuji went. Are you still alive? Gojo Satoru's plain voice came from the other end of Sha Yuji's phone. I'm still alive, Niu Yuji said calmly. If that little girl dies, will it be our fault? Ming said calmly. Oh, Gojo Satoru seemed to notice something and glanced around, and found a girl falling from a high altitude. Although it was far away, Gojo Satoru with 6 eyes could naturally see clearly that it was a young girl. Upon seeing this, Sha Yuji immediately broke the window and summoned a flying cursed spirit to fly towards the girl. At the other end, a figure walked out of the room and said lightly, "Don't blame me, blame Tianyuan." At this time, it was Kong Jun, a little Karami, a combatant of the Q group. "Ha!" little Karami Kong exclaimed. At this time, Sha Yuji was standing on Cursed Spirit, holding the girl in his arms. "Please don't make this a big deal. I was just scolded this morning." Sha Yuji squatted on Cursed Spirit and said gently to little Karami. Then he looked at the girl in his arms and sighed to himself, "Is this child an astral body?" Sha Yuji said with emotion, "After all, such a young age is the most brilliant time in life." In fact, this mission was somewhat contrary to what he had been pursuing, but there was nothing he could do about it. He doesn't have to complete the mission, but he must participate in this mission. "Oh, judging from your uniform, you must be a magician from a high school." Hand over that brat, or I'll kill you. Kong Jun said calmly, obviously not taking Sha Yuji seriously. After all, Sha Yuji in his eyes, Jia is just a junior high school student. Oh, I can't hear you clearly. Can you come closer and talk? Sha Yuji had a gentle smile, and a hint of darkness flashed in his narrow eyes. Have you caught up? Gojo Satoru and Ming said calmly to the other end of the phone. Two people. But at this moment, many flying knives were aimed at the two of them, but they seemed not to see it. The flying knives manifested themselves in different ways when they arrived in front of Gojo Satoru. When the flying knives arrived in front of Gojo Satoru, they all stopped in front of him, while the flying knives passed through the underworld when they were shot, but there was no touch, as if passing through the air. Finally, it was inserted into the wall behind Ming. That's great. You must be Gojo Satoru. You are very famous. I heard that you are very strong. Let me confirm whether it is true or not. A figure on the high platform in front of the two people clapped his hands and praised. Ming Zi was ignored by that person. Oh, this person is Bear, an older Kurami, the person in charge of the Q group's operation. Although Bear was praising Gojo Satoru, he did not have any eggs in his eyes. After all, it was just a rumor. Although Gojo Satoru had a high bounty when he was a child, he only thought that it was because Gojo Satoru was the heir of the Gojo family. As a non-staff jujutsu master, how could he possibly understand how powerful Gojo's message was? Looks like I'm looking for you. Ming's voice sounded from behind Gojo Satoru. I don't deny it, after all, it doesn't take much time to deal with a little ant. Okay, Gojo Satoru looked back at Bear and said. But let's decide the rules first, Gojo Satoru said here. Rules. Bear folded his hands and leaned on the stone pillar of the guardrail, asking calmly. I don't want to go too far and get scolded. Gojo Satoru walked forward, and the knife fixed in front of him retreated like an arrow. As long as you cry and apologize to me, I will spare your life. These are the rules, Gojo Satoru said calmly. Smelly brat. At this time, Bear was finally no longer so calm. After all, how could he not be angry after being laughed at by a small group? Ha 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 ha, that's really bad, Satoru, woo. Ming sat on another high platform and murmured after hearing Gojo Satoru's words. On the other side, Sha Yuji defeated the enemy with 3 strikes, 5 strikes, and 2 strikes. At this time, I was making coffee with boiled water, and then put a piece of rock sugar. How can I put it, in this environment, it is true and elegant yet chic, Gojo Satoru, Ming, so coquettish. Sha Yuji returned to Fang Na with coffee to meet him. The first time he saw the little Kurami was begging for mercy, while the Astral girl and another woman in servant clothes were in a coma. Please, please listen to me. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. The voice begged for mercy with fear. Kiss one, kiss one. At this time, a cursed spirit said like a pile of heads piled together. I will never interfere in this matter again, nor will I be a curse user. The little Kurami said in horror. Although this curse spell has killed countless people and is not so fragile, after all, the cursed spirit in front of him is too disgusting and is normal. People can't stand it either. I quit Q. By the way, I might as well go home and farm, you should have heard me, the curse user little Kurami asked for help, while Sha Yuji pretended not to hear it. Curse user, you don't have a chance to farm, Sha Yuji said calmly. I heard you clearly, and you went to fetch a little kid student, and you dare to look down on me. Anyway, Mr. Bear is already here, and he is Q's most powerful fighter. Seeing Sha Yuji's frivolous expression, Kong Jun said angrily. Both you and them. While curse user was saying angrily, Sha Yuji placed his cell phone on the table and a buzzer sounded. Sha Yuji took a look at the news and then said, now, are you talking about Bear? The man was about to retort and then took a closer look. Well, he's right. There was a calmness in his tone, as if he didn't react. Then curse user seemed to have lost his soul and stopped struggling. At the other end, a sturdy man in black with a scar at the corner of his mouth was betting on horses, and next to him came a middle-aged man in a black suit. The information in the conversation between the two people was naturally about the information about Gojo Satoru and others, and their opinions on the mission of these people. The idea of that strong man is to use some desperados who are willing to risk their lives for money to weaken the energy of Gojo Satoru and others. Finally, he will harvest the final fruits. He seems to know the three of them very well and knows their fate. Strong, so he knows that no one can defeat Gojo Satoru and others except him. And this man has a very high opinion of Gojo Satoru. From the conversation between the two, we can also learn that this man is really Zenin Shiji, but now he has changed his name to Fushihei Shiji because of his marriage, and the man in suits and ties is the intermediary of this mission, Kong Shiu. And the other end, you haven't woken up yet. Do you want to go to the hospital for a checkup? Sha Yuji's voice sounded from the room. It would be nice if I could cast the reversal technique like Shoko, Ming said calmly. No, it can't be done. I don't understand what that guy Shoko is talking about. Gojo Satoru looked at Ming helplessly and said. At this time, the image of Shoko appeared in the minds of the three people. Whoosh, then whoosh, 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 bang, don't you understand? Shoko stretched out his index finger and scribbled in the air. Then, looking at the confused expressions on the three people's faces, they would mock and say, no talent. Most importantly, the three of them could not refute. Well, let's just take a look and go to the hospital, Ming said speechlessly. And just as Ming finished speaking, the girl's eyes moved, and finally she opened her sleepy eyes. Naturally, Gojo Satoru, who was about to take him to the hospital, was the first to notice. Oh, you're awake. Gojo Satoru looked at the girl who had woken up. Ming and Sha Yuji also looked over. The girl looked at Gojo Satoru with a questioning look on her face, looking very well behaved. Everyone present said nothing, and the scene suddenly became quiet. Watch out. At this moment, the girl in Gojo Satoru's arms suddenly slapped Gojo Satoru's handsome face. Gojo Satoru looked prepared but was not slapped in the face by the girl. The girl's skills were not bad among ordinary people. When everyone was stunned, she quickly jumped from Gojo Satoru's arms to the ground. Then posed the driver to attack. The bottom part also said, it's too despicable. If you dare to hurt Ben Guliang, I will let you die first. Ming and Sha Yuji looked at the girl's energetic appearance and nodded. It looked like there was no need to go to the hospital. Gojo Satoru, on the other hand, looked like he was about to get angry and covered the left side of his face that was hit. Seeing this scene, Sha Yuji suppressed a smile and came to Gojo Satoru and patted him on the shoulder, meaning it was better to look at me. Then he said in a gentle tone, Rico-chan, calm down first. We are not accomplices of the people who attacked you. When Ming saw the handprints on Gojo Satoru's handsome red face, he didn't laugh at him, his face was expressionless, and then he pressed the shutter button of his phone where no one could see it. Hearing Sha Yuji's words, he didn't let down his guard but said seriously, stop talking nonsense. He obviously has a liar's face and his bangs are super weird. Ha 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 ha. Ming immediately found a place to sit down and watch the show. I sighed to myself, this girl is so interesting. After hearing Rico Tanuchi's words, Gojo Satoru and Sha Yuji immediately pulled Tanuchi's head and legs, lifting Tanuchi Rico up, and then began to twist Tanuchi Rico like a towel, but neither of them used any force. Ding! Just at this moment, the sound of the ladder sounded, and the woman appeared riding a cursed spirit. This woman was Kuroi, Tanuchi Rico's servant. At this time, he looked at the three of them in surprise. How disrespectful, Kuroi said, please stop. Kuroi looked at the woman Tanuchi Rico and called for help. Gojo Satoru and Sha Yuji were not embarrassed, and then they let go at the same time, and Rico Tanuchi fell to the ground. Miss, these three gentlemen are all our companions, Kuroi explained at this time. Hey, Kuroi, what are you riding on? Tanuchi Rico was about to say why he found such a person as a bodyguard, and looked at the creature in front of him curiously, not seeing this smelly, cute and ugly creature. This is Mr. Lu Hai's technique. As a servant of the astral body, he naturally knows the existence of the Jujutsu technique and there is still curse power in his body. Although he cannot fight, it is enough to see the cursed spirit. Can you please stop calling me that? Sha Yuji said with a stern look on his face. He could also see that Heijing admired him so much that it was hard for him to lose his temper. PFF'd, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. At this time, everyone who was still struggling with the issue of Sha Yuji's cursed spirit looked at Ming, who was laughing there and couldn't stop laughing, and looked over. At this time, Gojo Satoru also laughed, and Sha Yuji's face became darker and darker. Ah, ha 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 ha, cough. I saw Ming laughing, then coughed slightly and his face slowly returned to calm, but the corner of his mouth was even harder to suppress than the AK-47. No. Ahem, sorry, I have received special training. I won't laugh unless there are many funny things, Ming said seriously, and then the corners of his mouth raised again, and his facial expression became more and more. Obviously, Chu Fei can't help it, ha 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 ha. Ming said here. After hearing that last sentence, not only Gojo Satoru but also Tanuchi Rico and Kuroi laughed. After the effect, Rico Tanuchi was curious about the creature in front of her again. The cursed spirit manipulation technique. As the name suggests, I can control the cursed spirit I absorbed for my own use. Shayuji knew that he couldn't cause trouble with Ming at this time, otherwise his personality would collapse. This kid is more aggressive than I thought. Gojo Satoru also came to the sofa where Ming was sitting, hooked his arm on Ming's shoulder and said, "Yeah, her condition is surprisingly good. I thought her mental state would be very bad if she was to be assimilated by that old woman Tianyuan." Ming also said lightly at this time. The astral body, Rico Tanuchi, and Kuroi both looked at Ming. The two of them naturally knew what Tengen represented in the Jujutsu world. They didn't expect someone to disrespect him so much. Their eyes were filled with light. But it was fleeting, and he suppressed the thoughts in his heart, and then said with a look of disdain, "It is indeed the way of thinking of a despicable person, listen up." Gojo Satoru looked at the girl with an unhappy expression. Saying this, Rico Tanuchi stood on top of Cursed Spirit. With an arrogant look on his face, "Master Tianyuan is my concubine, and I am my concubine. Some stupid people, like you, regard assimilation as death. This is a big mistake," and then made extremely exaggerated movements. "Oh, when did you change the wallpaper, Satoru?" Ming looked at Gojo Satoru who took out his phone. And Shayuji is obviously more concerned about Gojo Satoru's wallpaper. Gojo Satoru said with a smile, "It's Inoue Kazuka," and held the phone where Shayuji and Ming could see it. Looking at the three people who ignored her, Rico Tanuchi looked angry. She didn't understand what the three people were thinking in their heads. The way he talks, I guess he won't be able to make friends. Yeah, just like Satoru. Yes, he has a very bad character when we first meet him, but since the kid thinks so, I can send him off for the last journey with peace of mind. The three of them were talking to themselves there, completely ignoring Rico Tanuchi, the furious Dao Tenai. "I'm at school and I'm talking in a normal way, you fools," Rico Tanuchi snarled. At this time, the expressions of Tanuchi Rico and Kuroi suddenly changed. "School, Kuroi, what time is it?" Tanuchi Rico was a little anxious. "It's not noon yet, but it's best not to go to school," Kuroi said. "Shut up, I just want to go." Seeing Rico Tanuchi's performance, the three of them were naturally unwilling to do this. After all, they would have to enter the school for protection, which was very troublesome. But Tanuchi Rico insisted on this, and Kuroi persuaded the three of them. There was nothing the three of them could do. "We can only take Rico Tanuchi back to the high school by force." Gojo Satoru called Yaga Masamiki to talk about the situation. What Yaga Masamiki meant made the three of them very confused, and they actually wanted to listen to the astral body. After hearing Yaga Masamiki's explanation, Gojo Satoru also hung up the phone and looked at Shayuji and Ming. "And when I heard Yaga Masamiki on the other end saying that was what kind of bullshit Tengen-sama's order was?" Ming frowned. The magic power in his body began to flow unconsciously. "What do you think?" Gojo Satoru said calmly. Shayuji was about to answer when Ming spoke coldly. "What bullshit is Master Tianyuan's order? It's just an old immortal guy. Why should he order us? Am I the one he can control? I won't do this stupid task. Let's go back." "Ah, isn't that good, Ming?" Shayuji said a little hesitantly. He didn't expect Ming's reaction to be so big. You know, even Gojo Satoru, who always said he was dissatisfied, still came obediently. When Gojo Satoru heard Ming's words, he looked indifferent, but since Ming had spoken, he naturally supported Ming. After all, an old and immortal thing was not able to order him. "What's wrong? Why should an old woman order me? I'm Uchiha Ming, and even if she really evolves into an enemy of humans, just treat her as a cursed spirit and kill her completely, or something." Ming had a look on her face. He said calmly, not taking it to heart at all. "Although what you said makes sense, Master Tianyuan can control the barrier after all. If he dies, the barrier supporting Neon will break, and then the world will be in chaos, Shaoyuji said with a headache on his face. It doesn't matter, I will take action. Ming calmly waved his hand. Shaoyuji had a dark look on his face. He always felt that this sentence was a bit pretentious. Shaoyuji, Ming and Gojo Satoru looked at Kuroi. Please help miss. She has no family, so I hope you can let her stay with her friends for a little longer. Please, Mr. Ming, Kuroi said and bowed 90 degrees. Ming frowned. In fact, it's not that Ming doesn't want to take care of this matter, it's just that it's too troublesome, because there are too many doubts about this matter, and the wording of that order made him very angry. The Uchiha blood in his body does not allow anyone to give orders. He, the arrogant Uchiha, would not be dominated by others. Ming, let's help that kid, Shaoyuji advised. Although that child is very irritating, I don't hate her. Gojo Satoru, who had been standing next to him, was sitting on the ground with his hands on the ground and looked up at the sky. I know, it's so annoying. Ming rubbed his forehead. Thank you, Mr. Ming, Mr. Xiao, Mr. Gojo, Kuroi bowed once. No, Miss Kuroi, this is what I should do. And that guy Ming is just talking. If he doesn't want to do it, even if Wu and I persuade him, he won't agree. Shaoyuji said with a smile on his face. Thank you, Mr. Ming, Kuroi said with emotion, bowing here. No need, Miss Kuroi. I wasn't targeting you and Tiane just now. I just think there are too many doubts about this matter, and I hate that Tianyuan thing. Ming said calmly. Kuroi looked at Mingya and knew that this seemingly cold young man was also a cold-hearted person. Oh, what did you find? Shaoyuji was a little curious. I felt something was wrong about this matter from the beginning. 1. Although the existence of astral plasma is not a big secret, the fact that they were able to attack Rico Tanuchi before we arrived shows that they knew the information no later than us. Ming calmly explained. Oh, so it seems that it is indeed unusual. Shaoyuji fell into deep thought. Don't worry about it, it doesn't matter who it is, we are the strongest anyway, Gojo Satoru interjected. Although he is very smart, he is too lazy to use his brain, and he is too lazy to think about this okay thing. 2. Yes, but I just don't like being ordered by others, or by someone weaker than myself, Ming said with disdain. Okay, don't worry about this kind of thing, let's go, let's go. Shaoyuji hooked Ming's shoulders and walked into the room. Gojo Satoru also stood up and walked towards the room. And suddenly Shaoyuji turned back to Heijing with a smile on his face and said, You are that child's family, right? Hearing this, Kuroi's eyes paused and he looked a little surprised. Then he looked at the figures of Shaoyuji and the others. Yes, his tone was firm. Jay, where is the cursed spirit you sent to monitor? Gojo Satoru suddenly thought of something and said. It's a pity that I can't share the vision like Miss Mei, but if I have the current situation, I can immediately. At this point, Shaoyuji's tone changed. Wu, Ming, we are at Rico's side. Shaoyuji walked forward and said, 2 of them were removed. The 3 men quickly ran in the direction of Tenai Rico. Finally, I learned from Kuroi that Rico Tanuchi was taking music lessons. But there are 2 locations, Gojo Satoru goes to the chapel. While Heijing went to music to hold on, Shaoyuji and Ming went to clean up the people who pulled out the cursed spirit. Gojo Satoru complained repeatedly while running. She had said at that time that nothing would happen if Rico Tanuchi was in the sight of the 3 of them. Ming Zi frowned, as if thinking about something. On the other side, Ming and Shaoyuji met an old man with 2 shikigami around him. Looking at the old man, Shaoyuji quickly summoned the cursed spirit. The old man was very surprised, but then there was a smile on his face. He already knew that Shaoyuji's jujutsu was cursed spirit. Although he knew that cursed spirit was very strong, he also knew that Shaoyuji's weakness was close combat. Then he looked at Ming with blood-red eyes and fell into deep thought again. Is that Gojo Satoru? No, 6 eyes is not the same color, which means he is not the one from the Gojo family, so it doesn't matter. The old man smiled with confidence. The old man was about to rush forward. A dog appeared in front of him, and then the old man fell into deep thought. How to deal with him? Ming asked calmly. Shaoyuji looked at the dull old man and began to think. Can I know about the old man's condition? Sha Yuji asked. Ming nodded calmly. Then he started to question the old man. As if he had no soul, the old man revealed his identity and learned that the old man was just asking for money. Sha Yuji suggested that Ming imprison the old man in the divine space, and Ming nodded. Then he walked to the old man's side and put his hands on his shoulders. When activated, the old man was absorbed into a blood moon space, and then tied the old man to the cross. This ability was produced by the combination of the divine power of Ming's eternal kaleidoscope and Tsukuyomi. So the divine space becomes like this. Then Ming walked towards Gojo Satoru, while Sha Yuji went to find Kuroi. At this time, Gojo Satoru came to the auditorium and broke in through the door without any hesitation. Tanuchi, Gojo Satoru looked at everyone in class, and the students looked at Gojo Satoru in confusion. Rico Tenten looked at Gojo Satoru, who suddenly barged in with an ugly look on her face. A woman looked at Gojo Satoru with a look of infatuation and said, "Who is Rico? Is he a boyfriend?" Other female students also started to talk nonsense. "No, he is my cousin, Rico explained hurriedly. "Don't underestimate you," said a female student. "As I said, it's my cousin," Tanuchi Rico explained. "Are you a high school student? You're so tall, oh Nissan, big brother," one female student said very nymphomaniacally, while another nymphomaniac said the same, "Can you take off your sunglasses?" Gojo Satoru took off his sunglasses with an elegant look and closed his eyes, revealing his handsome and perfect face and long white eyelashes. Then slowly opened his eyes. The girls looked at Gojo Satoru with cautious eyes, and they wanted to eat Gojo Satoru. Gojo Satoru has a very stinky bakey look, instantly arousing screams from the girls. "Wow, he's so handsome. I've never seen such a handsome person before. The eyelashes are so long and white, I'm a god. The eyes are blue, so beautiful. I have never seen such beautiful eyes." The girls looked at the astonished Gojo Satoru and exclaimed loudly. "Don't get carried away," Rico Tenai said unhappily. Just when the situation got out of hand, an older woman walked into the classroom, clapped her hands and signaled everyone to quiet down. "Everyone, it's unruly for students to be quiet like this." This person was the teacher of this class. Everyone suppressed their excitement and became quiet, but one girl still complained, "The teacher obviously cares about us. He still talks about us." Seeing the teachers coming, Gojo Satoru slowly calmed down a little and closed his eyes. The teacher walked towards Gojo Satoru. "Even family members can't just break in." The teacher was very calm. "It's an emergency, so I'm really sorry." Since he plays the role of Rico's cousin, Gojo Satoru was a little polite. The teacher suddenly took out a pen and paper and quickly removed it. He came to Gojo Satoru and whispered, "This is my phone number." Many female students looked at the teacher like this, and the scene became heated again. The teacher looked at the summary of the situation and retorted without any embarrassment on his face. And at this moment, a cool voice sounded to you. "Satoru, what are you doing, so slow? Have you found the child?" "Oh, it's Ming. Tianji is here." Gojo Satoru turned to look at Ming. And everyone also looked at Ming. Although Ming was taller than Gojo Satoru, it was not that much, so everyone didn't hear it clearly and only thought the voice sounded very nice. As Gojo Satoru came to Ming's side, he turned sideways and pointed at Rico Tanuchi direction. Only then did everyone see Ming's appearance. He had black hair, a tall nose, a face like a knife, and his eyes were pitch black, the kind of black without any impurities. Everyone saw that he was not inferior to Gojo at all. The handsome guy Satoru appeared, and the situation that was already out of control became even more chaotic. Everyone was chatting here. "Wow, so tall, a little taller than the white-haired big brother just now. Yeah, he's so handsome. He's such a cold-hearted man. He's so handsome. Who are you, Rico?" "Well, this is my eldest cousin." "To my eldest cousin," Tenji Rico said. Then I looked at the two of them with a headache, and I felt angry for the first time. Why are these two people here? Sha Yuji is also handsome, but Sha Yuji's handsomeness is different from the two of them. If Sha Yuji came, the scene would be chaotic, but it doesn't look like this. Then why does Tanuchi Rico continue to talk to you? That's because Ming and Gojo Satoru's looks are so outstanding. From the facial features to the face shape, they are perfect, and there is not even a trace of reverie. Although Sha Yuji is handsome, Shoyuji's facial features are not that outstanding compared to the two, and they are palpable in the eyes of ordinary people. Gojo Satoru and Ming's looks are intimidating at first sight, and they are as handsome as gods. Wow, he's so handsome. These black eyes seem to have magic power. I'm going to fall into them. Seeing the situation that was getting close to getting out of control, Mei glanced at Gojo Satoru. Gojo Satoru reacted instantly, hugged Rico Tanuchi, and ran out. Gojo Satoru and Mei took Rico Tanuchi and ran quickly. To speed things up, Gojo Satoru picked up Rico Tanuchi. It's better to come back to the high school with us. You don't want your friends to get hurt, Ming said calmly. When Rico heard this, she didn't refute me. She also knew that Ming was right. The people who are chasing her now are not ordinary people. Ming, who was running, suddenly stopped and looked down. At this time, Kuroi was fighting a tall man. I misjudged him. He is quite strong compared to ordinary people. Ming looked at Kuroi, who was fighting with the man, calmly. Gojo Satoru also stood there, looking at Kuroi, and nodded. Rico was a little worried about Kuroi, and just when Kuroi knocked down the man, Shoyuji also rushed here to summon the cursed spirit to control the man. Then Shoyuji began to ask about Rico Tanuchi's situation. And at this moment the man who was being controlled, the one just now, was indeed 30 million. After saying that, the figure disappeared from the place. Is it a Shikigami? Kuroi judged as he looked at the disappearing man. But it was rejected by Shoyuji. Oh, interesting. This is the first time I've seen this ability. Satoru, please go first. I'm very interested in this person's technique, Ming said lightly. Oh, you are actually curious about this ability, what kind of technique it is? Gojo Satoru asked. It's hard to say. After all, I haven't seen him in person, but if I guess correctly, it's a clone, Ming said calmly. Oh, it's just average. Okay, if the situation is urgent, I'll take Tenai to find a safe place first. Obviously Gojo Satoru has no interest in this ability. Then he walked away with Rico Tanuchi in his arms. Hey, are you two monsters? You can see them from so far away, Rico Tanuchi complained. At this moment, Gojo Satoru and Meizi were surrounded by several people. Seeing this person dressed exactly the same, Gojo Satoru and Meizi were not surprised at all. Woo, you go first, I'll do it, Ming said calmly. Gojo Satoru did not leave, but found a place to sit down. It doesn't matter if I'm here, Gojo Satoru said calmly. Ming nodded. He didn't speak but looked at the 5 people around him. The 5 people watched Gojo Satoru, not running or paying attention. This summary of the situation was more to his liking. After all, it was easier to defeat them one by one than 2 together. Aren't you going to help? He said, looking at Tenai, who was sitting there calmly. After all, there were 5 people in the venue. It doesn't matter, Ming will never lose. And for us, having people around us will get in the way. Gojo Satoru looked indifferent. Use 6 eyes to measure your ability to find interesting friends. But then he shook his head. No matter how you look at it, this ability is useless. Kid, why don't you let your companions come with you? The 5 people said at the same time. No need, Ming said coldly. Hearing that Ming had no intention of talking, the 2 clones punched Ming at the same time, and Ming stood there. The fists of the 2 clones collided. What's going on? The man looked at Ming, who was like an illusion, with surprise flashing in his eyes, and then he attacked again, but the result was the same. What's going on? Tanuchi Rico looked at Gojo Satoru. One of Ming's abilities, Divine Power, is that the location where it can be attacked is hidden in a special space. It is still difficult to explain. It is similar to the overlap of spaces. Gojo Satoru scratched his head and said, You guy. Seeing that there was no way to capture the person in front of him, the man decided to directly capture Rico Tanuchi next to Gojo Satoru. The man immediately jumped towards Rico Tanuchi. Gojo Satoru, on the other hand, sat there with a calm expression and did not take any action. Avertisement. Hey, aren't you going to take action? Tanuchi Rico reminded. No need, Ming will take care of it. Gojo Satoru had a confident smile on his lips. Rico Uchichi looked at the confident Gojo Satoru. After getting along with him for a period of time, she also knew that although the 3 of them quarreled and even fought over nothing, it could be seen that the relationship between the 3 of them was excellent. Rico Tanuchi likes the friendship between the three of them very much. Even in the face of the current situation, the man in front of him has no defensive posture. He is confident that his close friends can stop these people, and the real situation is as Rico Tanuchi thought. Gojo Satoru didn't even have the bottom limit turned on, he just sat there naturally. At the other end, a huge blue skeleton arm appeared next to Ming. Then the two clones rushed towards Gojo Satoru. He grabbed the two clones with his big hands and started to exert force, and the two clones were crushed instantly. The other clones also fell to the ground. What is that? It's such a big hand. It's so scary. Tanuchi Rico looked surprised, but he saw the fallen figure. Is there a real body in there? Tanuchi Rico said in surprise. Gojo Satoru did not explain. There was some sarcasm in his eyes, but he was not facing Rico Tanuchi but the fallen figure. Don't pretend. The 5 clones can be transformed into the original body at any time according to the degree of danger. Moreover, the destroyed clone cannot summon another clone in a short time. It's not a bad ability. Ming said lightly. How do you know my technique? The 3 clones originally planned to attack Ming, but were surprised when Ming told them about his technique. And Ming raised his head, stared at a figure with blood-red eyes and said coldly, "You have no chance in front of these eyes." What is that? The figure felt fear in his heart and stepped back unconsciously. Jujutsu Sharingan. Gojo Satoru on the other end stood up at this time. It seems it's over. Gojo Satoru stretched lightly. Huh, Tanuchi Rico said confused. Gojo Satoru glanced at Rico Tanuchi and then looked away. The battle is over when you look into those eyes of Mei. Huh, why? Well, you see, when he looked at Ming, his consciousness was pulled into the illusion created by Ming, and he couldn't even resist. Gojo Satoru glanced at the motionless figure. It's amazing, Rico Tanuchi said with emotion. Let's go, so just feel at ease. Nothing in this world can hurt you before you assimilate. We are the strongest. Gojo Satoru had a confident smile on his lips. Looking at this Gojo Satoru, Rico Tanuchi looked at this Gojo Satoru blankly, and felt that Gojo Satoru was not so annoying anymore. No likes. The buried seed also began to take root and sprout. I would like to emphasize that Rico Tanuchi does not like Gojo Satoru, nor is she the CP of Gojo Satoru. Don't think too much about it, it is just to pave the way for the subsequent plot. How about it, Ming? Gojo Satoru came to Ming's side. Although it can't be completely copied, it's almost the same. Ming said calmly, and then mobilized the magic power. The art of shadow clone. A figure exactly like Ming appeared. You can do the same, Tenai said in surprise. Well, it's so weak, but it's far from that person. Gojo Satoru looked at the clone in front of him. Yeah, some useful shung spells can't even be copied, Ming said helplessly. This clone of myself is simply useless. Not only can't you think actively, but you can't even think about fighting, but one advantage is that you can share the field of vision with him. But it's not very useful and the duration is not long, about half an hour. And also use it to control his actions at the same time. While Mei and Gojo Satoru were discussing shadow clones, Tanuchi Rico took out her mobile phone and said with a worried look, Kuroi, she. Have you been caught? But isn't Jia Fang with him? Ming said with a frown. They probably separated. Let's meet up with Jia first. Gojo Satoru picked up his cell phone and called Sha Yuji. After a while, Sha Yuji came over in a cursed spirit. After learning about the situation, everyone frowned. I ignored Miss Kuroi's value to them. Sha Yuji clenched his fists. Since they captured Kuroi, it must be to exchange hostages. Tenai still has the initiative in our hands. Kuroi will be fine during this period. We can take Tenai back to the high school and call Shoko or someone else, just use someone as a substitute. Gojo Satoru analyzed lightly. Wait a minute, I'm going to the scene too, because I don't believe you. It's about time, you little brat. Even if Kuroi is successfully rescued, if he fails to come back before I assimilate Lord Tianyuan, I will. Rico Tanuchi clenched her fists tightly. Kuroi is like a family member to him. She wants Kuroi to do his best to the end, bid farewell. That's enough, don't go to so much trouble, I'll go rescue the person. Ming said calmly. But, I haven't said goodbye to him yet, Tanuchi Rico said. Even though she was a little afraid of Ming, she still said it and tears fell little by little. Don't worry, we can catch up. Ming looked at the girl's condition and couldn't help but feel gentle. If you step back 10,000 steps and think about it, even if it's really over, then I'll have to withdraw from the time of assimilation with Tianyuan. At this point, Ming's face showed an expression that could not be refuted. Then the figure began to twist and disappear in place. Don't worry, Tiane, since Mingdu said so, he will definitely do it. Sha Yuji said softly. I understand, Tanuchi Rico said firmly. At the other end, on a rooftop, Heijing was tied there by several people, with a piece of cloth tied around his mouth. Can this woman really bring out the astral body? A man said. It will definitely happen, the little boss said confidently. Kuroi, on the other hand, secretly prayed in his heart not to come. At this moment, a vortex of space passage appeared in the space, and the last figure slowly emerged. Who are you, kid? Those people looked at the young man in front of them. Ming glanced at them coldly. Go to hell. Ming didn't say anything nonsense. His eyes were focused, and then a flame appeared out of thin air, and then he glanced at the surrounding figures, and then walked towards the black well without even looking at them, while those behind him were surrounded by black flames, unable to even struggle. He disappeared in an instant. Ming came to Heijing's side, and Heijing emerged from the shock. This was the first time he saw Ming take action. She didn't even know how to take action. Ming untied the rope without any nonsense, and Kuroi, who broke free, quickly said, Thank you, Mr. Ming. You're welcome, Miss Kuroi, that child is still waiting for you, and is crying and shouting to come. It seems that you are very important to her, so you should protect yourself. I understand, Mr. Ming. Coach Kuroi was also very moved when he heard this. There was something she wanted to say but still couldn't say it. She really wanted Ming and others to stop Tianyuan from assimilating, but he knew that he didn't have that rights, let alone qualifications. Let's go. Then he put his hand on Kuroi's shoulder. Under Kuroi's curious eyes, the two disappeared and appeared next to Gojo Satoru. Hey, it's pretty fast, Gojo Satoru said. After all, he is an ordinary person, Ming said calmly. Oh, it seems that the Pangsing sect is really careless, Sha Yuji said calmly. Kuroi is so fast. Weren't you captured and taken to Okinawa? Rico Tanuchi rubbed her eyes. In less than an hour, the person was rescued. What's so surprising, you kid? It's Ming's divine power. Long-distance teleportation is pretty simple, right? Gojo Satoru looked at the roaring Rico with an unhappy look on his face. What? How could I possibly know that after talking about long-distance teleportation, how could it be so easy? Tanuchi Rico complained. Forget it, let's do this. Let's send Tenai and Kuroi to the high school first, and then we go to Okinawa. When I came back, I found a good tourist place, Ming said lightly. Really, it's okay. The missions have been one after another during this period, and I'm really bored. Gojo Satoru said happily. What, I want to go too. Tanuchi Rico said dissatisfied. What, you're not afraid of being caught? Gojo Satoru complained dissatisfiedly, and even Sha Yuji admonished him beside him. We're all at the airport. It's okay, let's go together. Nothing will happen in front of us anyway, Mingzi said nonchalantly. Sha Yuji also nodded in agreement. Afterwards, everyone took a plane and headed towards Okinawa again, where Kuroi was kidnapped. On the plane, they also met several people from the Pangsing cult, who were controlled by Ming using illusions. Gojo's long-distance teleportation is still a bit difficult, you can do it across cities. The next day, several people came to the beach and played happily. At the airport, there were two figures. No matter how you look at it, this task should not be assigned to us first-year students. A cold-blooded boy with yellow hair said. My blood is boiling. I want to show Senior Sha Yuji and Senior Ming how powerful I am now. And in order to protect the weak girls, the seniors are fighting to pieces. How can we not work hard? The black-haired boy was excited, said. If a typhoon comes and the airport is blocked, won't all our efforts be in vain? Nanami said with a listless look on his face. He was two extremes from Haibara Yu. These two people are Nanami Kento and Haihara Yu, who were sent by Yaga Masamiki for support. At this time, the seniors who are fighting to death are sunbathing on the beach Pluto, and some are outsmarting sea cucumbers Tenai, Gojo Satoru. Others were chatting, Sha Yuji, Heijing. Is it really okay to come here to play? Kuroi said, looking at the playful Gojo, Satoru and Rico, as well as Mei, who was enjoying the sun. Don't worry, we are here. This is why Ming and Satoru are using their own way to relieve Tenai. Don't you see that child is very happy? Sha Yuji said. At this time, Gojo Satoru was playing with Tenai, and then there was no image laughing at the embarrassed Tanuchi Rico. It's almost time, Sha Yuji said, then stood up. Woo, it's almost time. Oh, so fast. Gojo Satoru then glanced at Rico, who was a little unhappy at this time. Sha Yuji also noticed. Let's continue tomorrow. Sha Yuji lost, but Shoko was still happy. Then he called Gojo Satoru over. Is it really okay for you to do this? You have been turning on comfort since last night. Don't you plan to sleep tonight? Can you hold on if you don't go back to the high school? Gojo Satoru said indifferently. No problem, this is much easier than playing games, and besides, it's you and Ming. Gojo Satoru and Sha Yuji looked at the leisurely Ming at the same time. Then the two looked at each other and smiled. Gojo Satoru is very confident in Ming and Sha Yuji. Nana Ming, I heard that I will stay for another day. Did something happen? Haihara Shang said happily. Nanami on the other side looked annoyed. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.